Ricky's getting sent back to the crowd.
There's a whisper in your ear.
Probably not.
One of the things.
How many coming out doing my thing? I thought you were going to say congratulations on being elected.
Okay, latest version.
I had a like 4 days ago.
I made those points.
Okay, Mr. Davis? And where's Miss Potter? I know she's here.
She's in the interview upstairs. I don't know. Running over. She's here though.
Good quorum, probably going to get started.
We've got a quorum. Sam's here.
Joe is pulling right now how much we
Right. Those sides.
I mean, if you think it's something that's going to push,
Somewhere in the building somewhere.
I want to find the $75,000.
This may be last week.
she's at, which I hate.
I know for her. For us, I hate it.
She'll be back though.
I know.
Yeah, I did too. She gets home, is that not is it?
No, but you know how that
Yep. That's gonna be a pretty thing.
It's not, it's me. I see Jan being, okay.
I got
So I was like, I get hot.
I'm not going to say that.
I was just talking to Miss Kelly. Were you able to find out anything about Willow Road? Huh? You sent me one today?
Oh, excuse me, honey.
Oh,
I sent you guys the number for the people to call yesterday. In the email that I sent you, that's the number they need to call state housing.
they need to call state house. That's what I just got off the phone.
Yeah.
She said that they now put another note on their door saying they have to the 22nd.
Yeah.
Look through it. It looks
Thanks
like
to
a
y'all.
listing.
Yeah,
And of
that's
course,
it.
what I will say.
But she said they're still not telling them where they can go. So she was like, they don't know if they had to get utilities turned on. They don't know where to go.
That's why she needs to call state housing. I get, it's 896 something.
The magic prices I put on the side of the table.
By the time I do it now, Mr. Duvall,
I figured you'd be asleep.
do you mind switching with this guy?
No.
I'm thinking maybe it'd be easier for her. Libby.
And then I've been up since 4 something this morning at court because I'm thinking to call you between now and
Usually,
You see, I live
you haven't had any of it. Okay.
Just leave it like that.
She wants to go. She wants to go.
She wants to
She wants
stay?
to go.
Okay.
All right.
Making your graduate. I know.
The normal. Is it a day? Probably. I would imagine. I don't know. I was expecting it.
Well, I would expect them trying to interview people, but
Just
that's not a city issue.
the Olive Garden been in the media.
Oh, okay.
That has, and I don't know if that's why they're here, but that's been teased a good bit.
It seems like they should be out. There's a hearing right now.
It's going to be amplified.
No, I'm thinking it's
Adam?
Sam.
From a bill.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, what a joy.
I got you.
Okay.
Hey, man.
Good?
I was worried I was late.
Get it on. Hey, I understand. All right, we got all 7 here, y'all. Let's get it going.
I was kind of in and out of town. I spent all last night on the computer.
Thank you.
Catching up on every damn thing. What's up?
Oh, right, okay.
I was about to ask her where she was.
Who's that? What's up, Pinty?
How are you?
Madam Clerk?
President.
Present.
Here.
Here, and glad to be here.
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 Present. First order of business, need to ask Mr. LeBlanc to find someplace else to stand. He can't stand right behind me.
I think he would say that if we had a bigger room, he could sit in front of us.
Well, welcome, Reverend McDowell and Mr. Duval, the first meeting.
Thank you.
Welcome, Happy New Year, everyone. Everyone, as we were gathering, sorry for the delay, but this first order of business is incredibly important. I think all 7 of us need to be here to hear from United Way and from Mac. So, City Manager.
Happy New Year, Mayor, Council, our new councilman. Welcome from me in particular. Happy New Year. Our first item is the coordination of homeless services, the inclement weather center opening, and the flood recovery efforts update from Mr. J. Mac Bennett, President and CEO of the United Way of the Midlands. Hey, Mac.
Oh, good afternoon.
Mac.
Hey, Matt.
I think this is the warmest place I've been
It is.
all day.
It is good in here.
Get warmer.
That's good right now, but it may not be good in about 30 minutes. There are a lot of microphones up on the podium, so I'll try to navigate my way around those. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, and members of council for inviting us to be here today. I do have a special welcome for Mr. Duval and Reverend McDowell. Reverend McDowell, I'm sure there are no stories about you that you can told,
Yes.
but I grew up in Sherrall with your incoming colleague and kind of watched as he launched his public service career. There are lots of stories from Sherrall about Mr. Duval. So at some point we'll get into those.
We'll forget the report. Let's talk about that.
I do also want to take another minute before I get into my presentation to acknowledge Juana Balknight and Teresa Wilson for their great job with the United Way campaign this year. Best campaign we've had with the city in about 5 years. I don't know if it had anything to do with good leadership or the flood or whatever, but we've been working together a lot with the city staff these last several months, and best campaign in 5 years. It was up 20% over last year's campaign. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Mac. Team effort.
I do have prepared remarks, and Sam, I'm gonna move your, I tell you, there are a lot of devices up here. I do have some prepared remarks and would like to go through those with you. Stop me at any point if you have a question. I also have staff here that if I can't answer the question, I will be happy to ask them to assist me. So please, I assume this will be very informal, and please stop me at any point along the way. 1 year ago, we started this partnership with the city. We brought in Midlands Area Consortium on Homeless, or most of you hear us refer to it as MOC, and began this process of coordinating and better response to our homeless needs in the community. Let me just give you an update. In the last 12 months, 6,500 Richland County residents were provided some type of housing service or related homeless or housing assistance. On a given night in our community, we still have over 1,000 people that are in shelters like Transitions or Oliver Gospel, or living on the streets. we've got a couple of people that have provided leadership for Mock. I would like to recognize them. Julianne Avon is the outgoing president, chairman of the board of Mock. She also serves as president, executive director of the Mental Illness Recovery Center here, and y'all know her. And I think Kristen Connors is here with us too. Kristen, stand up. Kristen is with the USC School of Medicine Supportive Housing Program as its director, and I know the city has a relationship with her, but Kristen is the incoming chairman of the Mock board, plays an important role, a volunteer role in our community, but it is so important. We appreciate the work that these women do. And we enjoy the partnership with Mock, both as United Way and as a community. Increasing housing options is a key goal as part of our work here. We're funding several things in our community. Our overall funding is about $1.2 million for financial stability and housing programs. One of the more recent things that we've launched that we're taking RFPs for now is a rapid rehousing program. This rapid rehousing is a national model that really helps people regain housing quickly, and within that work also includes things like rental deposits and sliding scales rent paired with case management. So that is one of the RFPs that United Way has released this winter, and we're taking responses to that RFP now. A new program that we've launched within the last couple of years is Youth in Transitions. If you talk to educators or people that deal with youth, you know that there's an increasing challenge in our community around young people aged 17 to 24 that don't have adult supervision. A lot of these kids are coming out of the foster care program or the justice system, or maybe even runaways, or otherwise don't have adult supervision. So we've launched a new initiative around this to look at housing, a place for these kids to go during the day and get services, and then the improved coordination of services that are provided to this age group that find themselves homeless. Mercy is working with the small housing program for young men in our community. That effort has been endorsed by Mock, and also United Way has given it a demonstration grant to do some of the initial work toward developing that facility. The committee's also met to discuss needs of youth toward development of the drop-in center, which is another critical component of that. And I know Mental Illness Recovery Center, Mercy, is also working on that, so we can have a place that people can come and receive consultation, case management around things like jobs, health care, transportation, and other services that they may need. We're trying to do a better job of understanding how these young people get their information, so we've had a couple of discussion groups come in with the young people and talk to them about ways that we can better communicate with them. We also want to try to use another statewide United Way resource called 211, which is a resource and referral system to provide more information to this particular age group. Another area that we've been working in at the request of the city is meal share for the local community of providers that come in and provide meals in our community, sometimes on a daily basis or a weekly basis. We reached out to the community and faith-based groups earlier this year, or excuse me, last year, and really brought them together to talk about how we can improve this, how we can do a better job as a community. We've developed a meal share calendar, so if you go to our website at United Way, you can see when meals are being served, where they're being served. It gives times, dates, the organizations that are providing those services, and any additional resources that they are providing. And the providers have been very willing to coordinate their services, the meal times, the resources that they're providing, and really set up a network that those things can be better shared in our community. The stakeholders are presently working on a agreement amongst themselves, and we hope to have that completed by the end of the year, or by the end of this month. Zero 2016. Some of you may be familiar with this effort. It's a privately led national effort, but it has been endorsed by HUD and other groups, and it's focused on ending homeless among veterans and people experiencing chronic homelessness. So in Columbia, we're looking, and part of what this national movement is to take best practices from other communities and implement them in your own community. So one of the things that we've done here in Columbia is we've worked on a project called By Name List, which helps us identify people that fall into this category, and then understand what services they need. And then as those people are identified, we can look in our community to at this common list for placements and direct those people into those services. It's been very successful in other communities, and we think that that can work well in Columbia as well. Since we started Zero 2016 back in February, 478 people have been placed in permanent housing. So there's been a lot of success in our community already.
Good job.
Chief Holbrook is not here, but I do want to recognize the Columbia Police Department, working with the National Alliance for Mentally Ill South Carolina chapter. We've begun to do crisis intervention training, known as CIT. It's a national best practice model of giving police officers and first responders the skills that they need to deal with de-escalating issues, especially among the homeless population and people with severe mental illness that may be on the street. The city police department has seen the value of these kinds of trainings. We've actually conducted 2 trainings so far. 23 officers in Chief Holbrook's force have been trained, and we're hoping to train more in the coming year. Columbia was the first community in South Carolina to start a homeless court. It began earlier in 2015. City Judge Dana Turner and Richland County Solicitor Dan Johnson were key promoters of getting this underway. The court is held at Transitions in Craig Curry's shop and has been a success so far. It's focused on addressing nonviolent offenses and connecting those offenders to stabilizing programs in our community. Again, it's the first of its kind in South Carolina. Charleston is already looking at our model and hoping to implement something similar in the Low Country later this year. Support for resource development for housing programs. I would like to recognize, most of you know Jennifer Moore on our staff. Jennifer's in the corner over here, but Jennifer is our senior director for our financial stability efforts. And every year, our community is called on to draft and submit to HUD a 1,100 page document. It's thick. It's this thick. To draw down resources that are available for communities for housing and homeless support programs in our community. MOC supports the effort. United Way drafts and submits the proposal, but it's this past year was submitted $3.4 million proposal. We should be hearing on that later this spring. We'll support 21 housing or homeless programs in our community this year. It's an important program. We couldn't do the work that we do with Salvation Army, Mercy, or a variety of other agencies in our community. We could not do that work without the support from HUD. Which leads me to the next point I wanted to share with you, which is our point-in-time count. Every January, to qualify for this HUD funding, we have to do a point-in-time count of our homeless population. So that means people like me and you have to go out into the community, whether it's a shelter like Transitions or the public library, or either down by the river under the trestles. We have to count the homeless population in our community. So we have to interview them and survey them. And that's coming up on January 27th. If any of you council members are interested in learning more about that, we'd love to take you out for an evening. The most interesting conversations occur in the evening. So if you're interested in that and going out and seeing our homeless population, where and how they live, especially those that are chronically homeless that are still on the streets, this is a great way to better understand what's going on in our community. This is part of our city contract, our work on this, and it's part of our coordination services. Angela Jones is our affordable housing coordinator. Angela's here. Just ask her to be recognized. Our homeless services coordinator left end of last year. We have hired Katrina Henry, who will be joining our staff later this month to fill that spot. On a cold day like today, we're thinking about the Inclement Weather Center. It is open tonight, in case you were wondering. But this has been a huge success. United Way, in partnership with Salvation Army and Transitions, took that over last year. I especially want to thank city staff. They've done a great job of working with us, of preparing the facility for us to operate out of these last 2 years. For those of you that are new to council, this is a program that operates when temperatures are expected to go under 40 degrees. And we have about 250 beds available at the facility down near the water treatment plant. To date, this year, in our contract with the city, the Inclement Weather Center has been open 25 days. We've served 467 unduplicated or different clients. That adds up to about 2,300 bed nights in the facility. And when we're not open at night, the positions that the city has funded are actually doing outreach on our streets. So they're going out and talking to people that are living on the streets, trying to get them into services. And we've had 17 positive outcomes for efforts that have been taken this year through those outreach efforts. Just to contrast that to last year, I looked at the numbers. We were open 83 days last year. We had 754 different or unduplicated individuals come in and get at least one night of shelter in the Inclement Weather Center. We had 11,300 nights, bed nights in the center, and we saved the city over the contract about $54,000 that went unspent because of our operation of the Inclement Weather Center this past year. We have made a few changes this year. We've added security at the pickup site, which is across from the Comet Transit Station on Laurel Street, so we've added security there. We've also added security to the site, for the overnight site, so that we can better manage the transition when our needs are the highest, which is when the individuals are coming in. This is an adult center. It does not serve families and children.
Mac, if you would, I just wanted to mention this because I know my mother, for example, last night when it was being advertised on the news about the Inclement Weather Center being open, but in the morning at 7, people are transitioned out. And she said, well, where do they go in the morning if it's still cold? So they do have a place to go because Transitions Day Center is available, and we all are working together in that effort.
Yeah, they do. There are a couple of hours that the community's kind of in transition between when we're releasing people from the Inclement Weather Center and when Craig actually opens up the Transitions Day Center. But usually that's spent with people moving around in the community, and so we are working together to try to close gaps like that to make sure that people aren't left without some place to go for shelter.
If it's real cold, they can just come in the lobby and
Right.
use the bathroom there. So they can get in and get warmed up.
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
Mac, what about rainy weather? Is it only a temperature start of the opening of the shelter? What about when it's raining?
Well, the couple of points to respond to that. On October 2nd, anticipating the heavy rainfall that we were going to get back in that first week of October, we worked with the city to actually open up the Inclement Weather Center for that weekend. So we served 50 people that Friday night, about 85 on Saturday night, and then we were all underwater. And we had to take other steps to serve that population. Ended up, the homeless population ended up at Transitions, and we had as many as 350 people spend the night during that following week at Transitions one night as an emergency response. But during the contract period, we do have the ability, if we think the weather is going to be inclement for other reasons besides temperature, we can make the call to open the facility to provide for shelter for our population. During the summer, we don't have that option, but during the contract period, we are making sure that people have a safe place to go. Okay? Craig Curry, y'all know, I think Alicia Wilkes, who is actually the director of the shelter, is not here. She's in training today. But the assistant director, Chuck Crumpler, is here. Just trying to get y'all to put names with faces of people that are serving our community. Chuck's here, and we appreciate the work that they are doing now down at the center.
Matt, let me ask you.
Yes, sir.
You said you indicated initially that you served 6,500. What was that figure initially?
We serve, there are about 6,500
Provide
people that may
services.
be homeless during a 12-month period in our community. And we know that through looking at the data that we get on the point-in-time count, but also looking at the data that all of our service providers are seeing within the community. We've integrated our network of service providers so that they can look at information about the homeless population and share that information from organization to organization. So individuals aren't coming in and having to retell their story every time they're trying to get a service that may be provided in our community. So approximately 6,500 we project any given year acquire a homeless service within our community.
So just a follow-up question. The 6,500, I think you said on January 27th, we're going to be.
Point-in-time count.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a count.
Yes,
Did we do that last year?
we did.
Bring that.
What was,
No, this is something.
comparatively, so what was the count last year?
It was about, in Richland, Lexington County, it was about 1,100. Is that right?
Okay.
And
But that's
just
one
that
night.
one day.
That's
That's that one
one
day.
It's one day.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of
That's
families
not yet.
and individuals, Reverend McDowell, that move in and out of a condition of homelessness.
Okay.
Some may get a service just one time, and they are part of that 6,500.
All right.
And you also,
Thank you.
of course, Matt, talking about itinerant families, people who go from couch to couch and
Well, and some of those don't even get counted. If you're living with a relative or a friend, you may not even get picked up in some of these counts.
yeah.
And if you're paying for a hotel yourself, you're not homeless. But if an agency's providing the dollars for a person in the hotel,
You
then
are.
they are counted as homeless.
Okay.
Mac, one more, just since we're pausing here for questions. The 478 that you found permanent housings for, where did you find that? Where were the housing available?
I'm going to defer on that. Jennifer, you want to?
Yeah,
Respond.
a lot of those were.
Jennifer, can you come to the mic? I'm sorry. Thank you.
These are much more friendlier questions than we got last time we were here.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Moore.
You're doing
The
so well,
478
Matt.
that
You're
we
doing so well. You're doing so well.
He is, isn't he? 478 that we placed is through the Zero program. A lot of those, most have been veterans that have been placed into housing, and that is through our VOSH vouchers, and that is a partnership through the VA, Dorn Medical Center, and our Columbia Housing Authority, who actually operate that program. So the vast majority have been veterans that we've been able to get off the street.
Okay.
Good job, Nancy.
Okay. All right. We talked a little bit about the Inclement Weather Center. It is a partnership that we have, Transition Salvation Army. I think it worked best before we really got started this year with the floods. The city decided on Friday that we were going to open the Inclement Weather Center. It was open those 2 nights over the weekend. We actually moved the people out of the Inclement Weather Center to provide evacuation services to some of the neighborhoods that were being flooded. And then as the waters continued to rise, we were concerned about the leaving people in that facility. So we had to move out of the Inclement Weather Center, the evacuees that we had moved there that morning. And really, they're not here, but recognizing the Metro Baptist Association, Rosewood Baptist Church, they really stepped up, and before any other shelters were open in our community, the Comet providing transportation, we were able to move people into a quality shelter facility, provide them with warm meal, a warm place to stay, and it was a coordinated effort between the city, and I'm not going to tell you how the mayor and I got together that morning, but it was just really a coincidence that we were all in one place at the same time and able to get services coordinated in our community on October 4th. But the Inclement Weather Center played a huge role in making sure that that was possible that morning. Long-term recovery committees, as we look forward to our recovery period after the storm, United Way has been asked to coordinate what's referred to as a long-term recovery group for our community. This is a model that FEMA has for communities to address recovery. So we are coordinating that for Richland and Lexington County. As we all know, if we've looked at the FEMA data, there were about 25,000 FEMA registrations that were made in Richland and Lexington counties alone. What people that have been through disasters like this, and you got to understand how these things work, but it's a big family that moves from disaster to disaster. The FEMA people, the Salvation Army people, the Red Cross people, they all know each other. It's a big fraternity, and they come into the community and they know how to work together, but they don't know our community. So this long-term recovery group will help us address our needs in our community. But with 25,000 registrations, the groups that were coming in that deal with this multiple times a year are telling us that about 10% of those $25,000 claims or registrations are people that don't have the resources through FEMA, insurance, or assets to repair their homes. So we've got somewhere around 2,000, 2,500 homes in our community that our neighbors, our residents don't have the ability to repair those homes. And that's where United Way is really placing its efforts. We've had about $1 million that have been donated to United Way's Flood Relief Fund. Our commitment has been that all of those, 100% of those funds will go to flood relief. We're beginning to make grants out of that now. We made a grant to a local organization called Homeworks that was teamed up with a group called St. Bernard Project out of Katrina. And if anybody knows how to rebuild, you know, the Katrina the people out of New Orleans ought to have a good feel for that. They've come up and they've really introduced our local community to a partnership and a way of rebuilding that is very efficient, is very effective. We started that project the week after Christmas. 12 houses were in our pipeline. We're beginning to see the fruits of that. Although I'll tell you, I was out in Pine Glen, which is a neighborhood off of Broad River Road last Wednesday. And then I was watching on the news Friday night that some of those homes were about to flood again, some that had already been renovated completely. So a lot of neighborhoods still facing issues in our community. We hope to address some of those issues through our own efforts at United Way and this long-term recovery group. Yes.
Is the process to apply for those funds on your website, or how do you know how to get those funds?
There are a couple of things. Let me address that, Mr. Duvall. We don't fund individuals. We fund organizations in our community to do work. And when I'm speaking of that, I'm speaking of United Way. And we are working through our partner agencies like HomeWorks to provide services in our community. So we made a $100,000 grant to HomeWorks and St. Bernard Project. Michael J. Mungo Foundation matched that gift, and that's how this work a couple of weeks ago got started. We are in the process of making a recommendation to our board. We'll make that recommendation later this month on what will be the requirements for funding out of this flood relief. But I will tell you that a majority of the funds that we have been directed, that have been directed to United Way, will be invested in home rebuilding efforts in our community through groups like HomeWorks or Habitat or other groups that may be coming into our community. The other major fund to provide flood relief is a fund that's being managed by the Central Carolina Community Foundation called One South Carolina, and they are also making grants, and they don't make individual grants, but organizations that are helping individuals can apply for those resources as well. Finally, and I'm almost done, volunteer services during the flood. United Way was unique in its efforts because we don't require training for volunteer roles that people can play in our community. Salvation Army, Red Cross, others have very specific roles that they have people to work in the community during a disaster, so they need special training for some of those roles. We were able to deploy a lot of individuals that just wanted to help, whether that was handing out water or transporting resources throughout our community. So we've already registered about 3,000 individuals that provided some volunteer service. We are registering them because we can use that as part of our application to FEMA for local support. Those 3,000 volunteers provided about 32,000 hours of volunteer services in our community, and that's just a very small number of the people that were out there doing work in their communities. So we're excited to be a part of that effort as well. Let me kind of wrap up there. I hope I answered your question, Mr. Duvall, about opportunities for funding. We are excited to be working with the city. We think we feel like we have a great partnership with the city. We've made a lot of progress these last few years, and I think we're beginning to see the results and the outcomes from our coordinated work in the community between the service providers and the city as far as our ability to help people in our community get the services and programs that they need to be successful. So I'm going to stop there, Mr. Mayor. Be happy to respond to any other questions that the council may have.
Real quick, I thank you for the presentation. When is the rapid rehousing RFP, when are those responses due? Is that coming sometime soon?
End of this.
She can say it, you can.
I'll repeat
I'll
it.
say the rapid rehousing response, it's on our website. Due end of this month, we'll issue grants, we'll start July 1 for agencies, and again, this is for funding to immediately put people.
Sure. No, excited about that. That's wonderful effort. So do, for the benefit of the people watching on camera, they do at the end of this month and.
They're due the end of this month. We will be issuing those later this spring, and those are 1 year, 2 year grants?
That's a year and a half.
Year and a half, 18-month grant.
To do housing?
The rapid rehousing.
Rapid
RFP
rehousing.
that you referenced earlier. Thank you for your work on Zero 2016 and the partnership with the Housing Authority and everyone else. That is something we committed ourselves to and look forward to hopefully continue to support your efforts in that regard. We'll be in Washington tomorrow talking about more flood-related efforts, but with the folks at HUD. And I think we're going to have to give multiple examples as to how we've been good stewards of resources coming from the federal government through HUD. And I'm going to reference that. Thank you for the partnership with the St. Bernard Project and all the work that you guys are doing there. I was very impressed with them when I met them in the wake of the flood. But the ability, particularly the public-private partnership with the Mungos and others, and being able to deliver on that very quickly is I think, to be admired as well. Look forward to hearing more about the point in time count. I plan to participate, and if the time allows, also make, teach a class at USC. I may want my students to also participate in some
Right.
meaningful way. So I think that's something that's exciting. And not having easy, but Julianne, thank you all for your work on the issue, the really challenging, new to many of us, and nuanced issue of youth homelessness. And I mean, it's something we're going to have to tackle head on. We've talked about families, we've talked about children, and many of us are starting to see these younger teenagers and young adults that require a special degree of attention and focus. So thank you all for your work in that vein. I did have one question, and obviously thank you for your partnership with Inclement Weather Center. And it's been a whole lot of hands in that pot, and it's I'm convinced it's working very well. And thank you all for your work there. Is there any sense, and I've learned as a lawyer, you never ask a question that you don't know the answer to, but I don't know the answer to this question. So I'm actually pitching it to the experts, I promise you that. Is there any sense that because you guys are working together so well, because of the leadership of MOC, because of the leadership of United Way and Salvation Army and Mercy and Transitions and all the other partners, and there are a number of other partners who are doing their own thing independently and doing it quite well, like the Gospel Mission doing it for 100 years and others. Is there any sense that because of the leadership being shown here locally, that we're also taking on other communities' responsibilities who may not be stepping up to meet those needs? Are we seeing more chronic homeless coming from other communities to Columbia?
The vast percentage is still originating here,
Regionally, South Carolina?
originating within our catchment area.
Okay.
I mean, I can send you the zip
Sure.
code numbers for where
Sure.
people
That's-
live prior to.
So that's Mercy, is it MOC?
That's mine.
MOC, okay.
I like to see that also.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, because I that's always been a concern of mine. You know, as we all do, as we meet people, and I've met folks from as far away as Sacramento, and folks who saw a couple walking up Gervais Street who are incredibly nice people with a shopping cart from Ohio, and I called the major, and the major got them moved on to where they were trying to get to, and a very
Yes, but those are not people who are trying to stay
Sure.
here.
Sure, they're trying to pass on
If they
through.
were not wanting to even stop here.
Yeah, but
there was
nonetheless, they were here and they were downtown.
Yes,
And
and
the
again,
services,
because of United Way funding.
Sure.
When we have those kind of families or individuals stop off in Columbia, we're able to get transportation if it's appropriate, not to just get them out of town, but to help get them to where they really want to be and belong, rather than being stuck here.
Sure.
And that's a transportation program United Way's funded the Army for as long as I've been here, for over 5 years now.
but we get a sense of that, because I mean, I run into people routinely, and I obviously stop and sit down and have conversations with individuals, and folks will be from New Jersey or Philadelphia, New York, and a number obviously have roots here or family ties here, or this neighborhood was their neighborhood that they grew up in 20 or 30 years ago. But just trying to get a sense as to whether or not it's clear to me that this community, and I mean this in a very broad way, I mean the for-profits and nonprofits and governments, although I do think we all can do a little bit more, and I'm talking about us here, that we're stepping up. There's more we need to do, but I want to make sure that we encourage others to do what they can do as well. This has been a better conversation than it was last year, Matt, as you referenced, and I thank y'all for all the work that you guys have been doing. Look forward to seeing you, if not before then, on the 27th.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Davis,
Just
Ms. Devine.
one question on your data. Do you show people, whether you say they're in transition or passing through, do you categorize that group?
The folks that we're saying are homeless and that originated here, that's people that we've been
Right.
collecting information on. So that's totally different than traveler's aid kind of situation.
But whether it's for traveler's aid or other kind of rental assistance or.
Traveler's
people showing
aid.
the Army,
Traveler's aid
we get
again.
the address that is that address that's appropriate, whether it's the persons that the mayor's talking
Right.
about had a Florida address. But anecdotally, because the Salvation Army is in all 50 states, if we were seeing, if there were a lot of people flocking to Columbia because of the resources available, we would know that anecdotally because of the people who come to the Army, because they've seen the Army other places. And we don't see that. By and large, the people who come through the doors at the Army that have either been referred by other organizations or who've just come to us because they need assistance at this point in time, whether it's utility or rent, these are residents of the community where we live.
We will ask homeless people what was their last residence, and overwhelmingly it's Richland and Lexington County. Overwhelmingly it's Richland County.
So we don't know if, I've always been interested in that. It sounds like there is a group or there's a number that we say are maybe passing through. Do we have that?
Well, not in the sense of, I'm having to go back to my stat line numbers that we used to report. And because we don't have a shelter, we don't have stats that are called,
You
what
don't?
you might call transient.
Right.
But when it comes to the form of type of service that we do, again, the transportation piece is a wonderful resource, but it's not used every day because it's not needed every day.
Okay. Transition?
That transition is 15% out of state. Whether they are, that's formally out of state, whether they're just passing through, or like the mayor said, their grandparents are here, or they grew up here, they fall into all of those categories. But 15% will claim that their last residence was somewhere outside the state of South Carolina. It's been consistent at that for the last 4 years.
And since you started funding Housing First, there's 60 Housing First units at the Columbia Housing Authority, and 56 of them are from Columbia.
The Housing First has
That's what, just
a
our
pretty
homeless
good
units.
track record of permanency.
Well, I mean, they came from Columbia. I mean, their last
That's a
zip
good-
code, their last address. And I would agree with all three of them, that most of them that we get that are referred are from Columbia. You know, Richland County.
Mr. Vine?
And this might be a Julianne question, but when you talked about the housing that we're doing for the mentally ill, I know that and I know this is kind of premature, but kind of looking forward, and you mentioned Jennifer does the annual looking for federal dollars. The president announced $500 million to put in mental health services. I'm just wondering if any of that can be for housing. And I know this is very premature, so I don't know if we know, but I guess put it on your radar.
Okay.
But I know that you mentioned the mental health, but I continue to have huge concerns about the lack of housing for our mentally ill, and so they end up being on the streets. And I know that Mercy is always pretty much at capacity. So I'm not sure strategically are we looking at how do we expand that and be able to provide more. But I was in mental health court this morning, and two of my people, the issue is housing. Where are they going to go when they get released from the hospital? And a lot of times what people say is transitions. And that's really not the best place for people with mental health issues for various reasons. So I don't know strategy-wise, where are we going on that, and what are our plans to try and increase the housing that's available to people with mental health issues?
Okay. We're always looking for federal resources and for private resources to help with funding for housing. Can tell you that even though we're at capacity, any turnover that we have, if someone moves on into something that they're able to afford on their own and don't need that subsidy any longer, we've dedicated all of those beds to chronically homeless, which means somebody with a serious persistent mental illness and that has been homeless for at least a year or had 4 episodes in the last 3 years. The other thing we've done is that application that Jennifer submitted back in November, the federal HUD application. Included in that was a new grant application for Mercy to expand and house more homeless individuals with mental illness. We are looking at some funds from SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, that may be able to help us with the funding for ongoing operations of the youth housing and drop-in. So we're constantly looking at that, and there are still a few available. And our state has received a CABI grant, which is another SAMHSA grant, and it is to help develop infrastructure and services throughout the state to work with individuals who are homeless. Our South Carolina Department of Mental Health is the actual grantee on that and is being point on that. I believe that's $1.3 million a year for 3 years. Is that correct? We are going to be forming in Columbia. Palmetto Health Outpatient Behavioral Health Care has agreed to form another ACT team, assertive community treatment team, which is what Mercy has for people with mental illness. We'll be training their staff the last week of this month. We'll then be doing the same thing in Greenville, and that will strictly be to work with folks that have serious mental illness and are homeless and get them into services and into housing. That grant is also putting back together the interagency homeless council. Our state had not had one for, I think, 8 years. And we now have representatives from all the state agencies that are participating in that. So we do have some leadership, even from the state level, on addressing this for mental health issues.
So the process then becomes a process of triaging, whether local or state, assessing need. The bottom line, of course, is housing. Getting the necessary job skills to do whatever, and to move into housing. Is that I guess what I'm hearing is we are providing housing without the triaging effect. And what I just heard you say a minute ago is yes, that's what we're doing, and I was glad to hear that. But that's on the state level.
It's also MOC. When Mac referenced that there's a by name list, that is coming through our homeless management information system that all the providers are using. We also started about midway through 2015 doing a vulnerability index on individuals that are homeless when their information's going into the management information system. And by that, we actually are triaging, determining who's got the greatest needs. The people with that highest vulnerability are going to be the ones who are going to get in housing first.
Okay. Now, please excuse the newbie on the group.
Oh, that's okay. I love to answer questions.
Thank you, guys.
And of course, the MOC emphasis, and my interest, of course, is the triaging piece, because I think that really gets at the very heart of what is taking place here in Columbia and statewide. Thank you.
Reverend McDowell, we're going to get you a glossary of all the acronyms that you'll hear us use, because they're legion.
Here too.
Yeah. I would just draw to your attention, Julianne mentioned it, but things like this Youth in Transition, looking at some of the emerging needs in our community and responding as a community before they become, and some might argue that they already are crisis, but we've got to look at new ways of dealing with old issues. If we keep doing the same things, we're going to get the same solutions. So I really applaud the effort that MOC and United Way and Mercy and others are making to address some of the things that we're seeing different in our community. And we're going to be progressive toward solving problems. Yes. And you'll have a written report on our status of our first 6 months of our grant for this fiscal year within the next few weeks.
Thank you, Mac. And obviously,
Thank
you
you.
guys are okay. Let's take up the yellow shirts next. We can get more people in the room, but I don't want to lose the nexus between this conversation and the conversation regarding Gonzalez Gardens that we're going to have immediately thereafter. Thank you guys so much, all right? Thank you so
And I
much.
guess if I can add, I know Craig is here, the
Transitions Board had an excellent strategic planning session in November. And just a lot of great things came out of it. I know this was focused more on United Way, but I would love for Craig to be able to come and give an update sometime soon if we could schedule that, just on, you know, the direction that the board has done and their successes over the last year and just an update.
That'd be great. All right.
All right, good deal.
Item number 3, the funding for the Vista Yellow Shirts program. The Honorable Tamika Isaac Devine and I was about to say the Honorable Mr. Richard Burks.
I'm Richard Burks. I'm representing the Congaree Vista Guild. And want to thank you, Mayor and City Council, Manager Wilson, and staff.
And y'all, this is an update from our conversation from last meeting regarding the necessity of funding for the yellow shirts in the Vista to continue to the end of this fiscal year. Currently, what we talked about last time, we were talking about several things. We asked Richard to go back. I think that ultimately they asked for 125. I was suggesting 75, and there were some questions regarding what they could do with 75, and really understanding if there is some guarantee that it will continue. And so Richard was asked to go back and see what they could do, and so this is the back. I do know, and Richard, I'll let you kind of take over, but kind of long and short, because I know we have a lot of things to talk about. Bottom line, I do know that the 75, even with them cutting some things, is about $5,000 short of what they really need to continue through the end of June. So the request would be $80,000 if they were able to come up with it. My proposal, and part of what we discussed last month when we talked about the North Columbia marketing plan, we talked about maybe making a commitment out of next year's funding just to give them that guarantee, and then they could figure out how to do it. So my proposal would be, I do know that we don't have any more hospitality tax money right now, and I don't think that general fund is the proper source for this. So my proposal would be that we look at an allocation out of next year's funding. I know Richard, and this is where he can take over, I asked them if they could figure out how they could get it paid for if they knew that this $80,000 would come July 1. So that's kind of where he is now. You can take over.
Sure. And I can get Alan Franklin to come up if need be to answer for block by block. And of course, Matt Kennel is over here too. My understanding is block by block is willing to carry our balance until the first of the fiscal year in July if council will commit to the funding. So, Alan, would you like to add to that, or?
Yeah, as long as we can get
Alan?
an agreement from council.
You want to come?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm Alan Franklin. I'm a Director of Operations for City Center Partnership, and I work for Block by Block. We'll carry the 80,000 until July if we can get agreement from council that we can get our money back come July 1.
Is that 75,000, does that take us through just the 2 quarters or the 80? Well,
80 goes from January through June 30th.
Yeah, our funding runs out, the funding that we set aside from the Guild runs out in mid-January. That was $105,000. And through attrition, we have been able to move one staff person, reduce one staff person, and we're now at $80,000 for the rest, from January 15th to June 30th.
Howard, please.
Couple of questions, maybe from Jeff. How many have we funded out of next year's budget already? 'Cause
We don't do that typically, and I think what the staff and Jeff, you can, and Missy Kaufman can chime in. I guess what we would need clarification on from council is the council suggesting that this organization is treated more like a line item, and you're committing that set normal amount of funding plus $80,000, so you're going to take it out of the committee process?
My suggestion would be to take it out of the committee process. Yes.
What,
Howard asked a specific question about, have we made any other commitments
I
from
think
FY16?
just the North Columbia that we did last time.
What was it again?
That was
Well,
I don't think we did that.
I don't think you did that.
We did.
North Columbia yet. The only commitment 16, 17 that's been made thus far is from Columbia Regional Sports Council for $50,000
We did.
and Nickelodeon for
What did you
$110,000.
offer?
There might,
We have some
yeah, must be,
Some of the regular,
Maybe a-
some of the recurring
Recurring type
costs.
Yeah.
things.
Those are commitments, multi-year commitments.
Commitments,
Correct.
yeah.
Right, except for Regional Sports Council,
Yeah.
there's an allocation made this year.
Please, oh, yeah.
what is the level of funding for the Vista Guild now, and then the present? How much money did you get last year?
Last year, we got about 275 from the committee. If Libby's here, she could confirm that, but I want to say it was 225, and then we got another $50,000 later in the year because there were excess funds. And council gave us a set aside of $150,000 for yellow shirts.
Right.
So this year, we got an allocation of $250,000 from the committee. I would be very careful about proceeding with this if you're taking it out of the committee process. Number one is I don't want to have 90 other groups that are upset with us because we just lowered the balance that the committee has to allocate. And from serving 7 years on the advisory committee and as its chair for 2 years, I know what I'm talking about.
Would you go along with your same appropriation out of the fund that you got last year?
I believe, and I'm speaking for myself, I believe that the yellow shirts should be from council as whether it's H-Tax or any other type of, funding mechanism. I think it should be a set aside from council directly instead of the committee process.
And if I could add, Howard, one of the things that their 225 or 250 this year came actually from the committee, and the majority of that went to the marketing. None of that was, and that's been kind of their ongoing annual allocation, and that always goes through the committee. 2 years ago, well, we really started talking about yellow shirts in the Vista maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. After a few years of talking and negotiations, then it actually went into play. Council did a separate allocation outside of the committee process of $150 for the yellow shirts for the, that would have been 14-15 fiscal year. So for the 15-16 fiscal year, they did do the committee process. The committee gave them $250, which is what they use for marketing and other stuff. And then they came to council for the one, and I think that was 125. That wasn't 150. It was 125. Correct?
120.
120 for the 15-16 fiscal year for yellow shirts. We didn't make that allocation. We just kept not doing it, and then finally we just didn't have any more money. So last month when they came, they actually set aside, had saved some money, so they had 105, and they paid for it up to this point. So now what they're looking for is the end of this fiscal year. There still needs to be a discussion on this council as to whether or not we are going to fund the yellow shirts moving forward in the Vista. The Vista and City Center Partnership are a little bit different. We do a direct allocation to City Center Partnership for the yellow shirts, so we have to have that discussion on the Vista. We haven't had that yet. But then the other question is, moving forward, because they do that 2 different processes, CCP doesn't have that. They don't do a marketing through the committee and then have a separate ask.
But with all due respect, Ms. Devine and Richard, it's semantics, honestly, when you get right down to it about whether you're taking you out of the committee process or not, because this council ends up, as Ms. Devine just described, moving money around, or whether or not you're exactly right about what other organizations might feel, but that's ultimately what ends up happening anyway. And so for the staff and I, we just want to be very clear that if you are suggesting that $80,000 be appropriated, exactly where it's coming from.
Well, we would like to see it handled the same way it was last year. And the committee approach has been for years to have 5 Points, CCP, and the Vista be somewhat on parity when it comes to funding. And if we go into the committee with a request of nearly $500,000 to include yellow shirts and marketing, the committee is not going to fund 20+% of the budget that's given to them by council with 90+ groups coming in. So they will say, if you would like to use it for marketing, go ahead. If you'd like to use that for yellow shirts, go ahead. As long as it's an eligible expense, every year the committee says, with y'all's permission, or Libby stands before you and says, is this okay to say? But those groups, as long as it's an eligible expense, they're able to turn it in. So it can be for yellow shirts. It can be for any other eligible expenses.
And can I just, one clarification on that is, every year, and we don't know what next year's budget's going to be, but every year, the budget is based on what our H-tax projections are. And so the big H-tax pot varies from year to year. We have typically had a certain amount that we've set aside for the committee. Then we have we have line items, the Columbia Museum of Art, Adventure, others that we set aside. And then we've got debt service. And then ultimately, usually there's some other money that we give out here and there. 14-15, the 150 was part of that other money. So they still went through the committee process. So even though I think what I'm saying and what Ms. Wilson's saying is correct in that the pot is the same. If you're saying H-tax, staff just needs to know where it comes from. But saying that it would come off the committee doesn't necessarily mean that the committee would get less money. We haven't gotten into what the full budget is. But this council has routinely tried to keep the committee as whole as possible, but there usually is some extra money in there that we allocate for various things. And I think Missy wants to say something.
And really, the question is not so much where, we know the funding source will be hospitality. The question is, how much are you actually wanting to commit out of next year? If it's just 80,000, 80,000 sounds like that is just the delta of what's needed. If it's for the full year funding.
Correct. Yeah.
That's the part.
Okay, my proposal is the 80,000, and that they still have the ability to go through the committee for that part.
Committee and the budget process.
And the budget process. And so whether we decide they're 15, 16, or we're in 16 now, 16, 17 budget, for if we're going to do yellow shirts, that still has to be, that's still a discussion this council needs to have. And that would be a part, and then there would be whatever they go through with the committee. What I'm proposing is that we go ahead and allow them, we commit $80,000, and that would finish this fiscal year. Those other two would be dealt with through the budget and committee process.
Mr. Davis,
No, I concur, but just on a recall of the last discussion we had, we also committed to the NCBA project as well. The commitment was to get it out of next year's budget, same as.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I think what they're saying is it wasn't it wasn't an official motion.
So total commitment for 2016 already, 2017 already, is what?
It's the only commitments out of the 16-17 budget, and you can say how many millions we'll have to appropriate Rick McDowell, or to the Sports Council for $50,000, I believe. And there's some multi-year commitments that we've made to Historic Columbia, for example, to Historic Columbia, the recognition of African American history, and I believe also Jewish history. There's some multi-year commitments to the last part to the Nickelodeon, but for the most part, other than those line item organizations that we had, and we expanded them a bit last year. They're no different than they have been previous years.
Recurring.
Yeah, no different than they have in previous years. And obviously the question before us, I believe, and I hate to make things simplistic, and then I love, I'm sorry, I'll chime in after. I think Mr. Davis has had his word, Ms. Plow, then Mr. Maduro, and I'll speak.
If I could really one quick I failed to recognize, I would like
If
a
you-
lot of,
If you weren't done, Mr. Davis, I'm sorry.
No, I was just wanting to give the recall on what the commitment was last month.
Sam, I am fully in support of the NCBA funding. And I think we made it clear. I have no idea whose ring that is. It's not mine.
Was it Sam?
No, obviously. Mr. Davis, are you done?
Yeah.
For now, for now.
Clear on
For
that.
now. Ms. Plow, Mr. Ventura.
I really have
Long
two
day.
questions. One is, and this is for the staff, and I don't know if it's Libby or Missy or whoever, city manager.
Yes,
The 80,000, what we're doing is we're spending it now, and then we're going to reimburse them for spending it this year with next year's money. Can we do that?
We're not
And it
spending
sounds-
it. We're not spending it now.
like the
We're not spending it now.
CCP is
We are
gonna-
reimbursing them for the expenditure. They're going to spend it this year.
So you're really asking for
They are spending it.
CCPs?
We're not spending it.
Are you asking for the city center partnerships funding to be replenished?
the Vista Guild is a conduit. The funding that you give us is restricted to yellow shirts. That funding goes through us and back to CCP, and then they pay block by block.
I understand that, but didn't you just say that they are gonna cover your delta until the end of the fiscal?
Block, block, block isn't gonna bill them. Basically, they won't send the bill until July 1.
But it's the same
how-
thing. It's the
exactly.
same thing.
No, it
You are doing activities in this year, and the bill for this year's activities is gonna come next year. And I'm just asking, can you do that? I mean, that sounds a little strange to me.
Can you,
Yeah,
Can you do-
we can spend our H-tax money however, I mean, we've done
On
that.
something from prior years?
I mean, we've done that. When we've had like, for
We can
instance.
reimburse somebody for what they
Yeah,
spent.
like when,
That's
Years
actually
ago,
how we
5
do
point-
HSAC.
yeah, when-
HSAC is actually reimbursing.
yeah, H-tax is reimbursable, but like when 5 Point
So,
had
Libby, we can do this.
a loss from St. Patty's.
That might be a Jeff Finley question, but as far as I know, we have done it in the
Aren't-
past.
aren't-
So CCP is eating it? They're gonna eat it? I'm asking the question.
Nobody is.
Block's gonna,
They're gonna make a lot.
we're gonna eat the money.
Absolutely.
They're going to bill
You
us.
have to pay the people, this is
They're-
personnel costs.
We've got enough surplus
Yeah.
to do it.
Okay, so why-
But that happens a lot. We contract services.
They're gonna get
Mr.
paid back.
Mr. Burks, Mr.
By
Burks,
us.
Mr. Burks.
The way the reimbursement process works,
Get paid back by us.
the way the reimbursement process works is that we spend the money, whether it's for marketing or what have you, and then when the invoices come in, we then take those invoices and we submit to Libby for reimbursement. I'm sure that it happens every year for things that are close to the cutoff date, that things get carried over.
But that's.
So it's the
that's-
same process.
That's what all HSAC
Just
dollars
want
are.
to
Right.
make sure the city manager understands what we're doing and
Neither
that
does
this
the-
is a legitimate
Yes, ma'am.
process.
The block by block is not going to bill us until July 1st. We will then take that invoice and we will submit it for reimbursement. It would be the same thing if a marketing firm,
Help me understand why it's so difficult to understand, y'all. I'm missing something. I get it.
this happens with probably every group that Libby oversees.
Well.
There's some accrual.
Libby just said that this is obviously eligible. We funded the yellow shirts for years. It's obviously-
Absolutely. I think what the CFO and the city manager and the finance director and the budget director are all shaking our heads because we're trying to understand if CCP is floating the money.
Block by block.
Block by block, okay, which is typically, we as an entity, we provide dollars to CCP for block by block. So I'm asking, is this $80,000 that you're saying should go to Vista Gill, so then you can take your invoice and pay it that they've held for you? Why are we not working directly with CCP? Because they also get the same dollars that we would have given to you. If it's, I guess, which I thank you for doing this out of the goodness of your heart, if you're able to float it, I guess we're trying
if
to
you-
understand.
Let me look at, let me try to explain it this way. we have marketing dollars that are set aside. We established our budget back in July when we got our funding.
I disagree that it's a cleaner deal. I think if these funds are clearly meant for providing yellow shirts in the Vista, then we ought to say they're being funded to provide yellow shirts in the Vista. But please.
If it makes things work a little bit easier, and of course, I haven't talked to my board about this, but we could take the marketing money that we have budgeted, and we can pay block by block. And the marketing money that we have, that we've contracted services with, we'll push those, when we get invoiced is when we submit for reimbursement. So the funding request for this year just happens to be what it is, what we received. The funding for next year would be larger. That's all we're saying. That's the difference. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, but the first one seemed cleaner. That just seems that one is, yeah.
Huh?
The point that I think the city manager's making, and the reason that I believe if City Center Partnership just funded the yellow shirts with the existing resources that you have from us, and then we come in and fund City Center Partnership additionally starting the new year, then we've stayed straight with what year things have been funded and what they are going for.
But when do we make that commitment to the City Center Partnership? I think what I've heard
We can
clear
make that
from
today.
CCP. But I think that's all they have.
Yeah, that's all, yeah, we can do it that way. If that
I'm just
makes,
saying that I think-
yeah,
I feel
we
like
can do
that's
it that way.
cleaner.
They just want the commitment.
That's what they've asked for.
Yeah, that's-
That was the very first request. Let's make a commitment that we'll pay.
Right, but they're just saying for accounting purposes, instead of it saying blah, 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 to hold the invoice and whatever. All we're saying, yes, we're gonna make the $80,000 commitment and then go ahead and let them pay whatever, and then we just pay it in July. It's the same thing.
And to just take it further, it would be very helpful if we had some clarity as staff as to how you're gonna handle this going forward.
Right.
Because quite frankly, if it's gonna be an extension of block by block into the Vista, being paid for by hospitality tax dollars, which is honestly, in the staff's discretion, the only recommendation we could ever make, you won't see us making it for general fund dollars, then we need to have that discussion at some point on if it's gonna be through CCP and block by block or with the Vista Guild.
Yeah, that was the second part, yeah, that was the second part of
for.
my thing, is that we need to have that discussion, because honestly, it's not just this.
It is.
There are a lot of things that come up, and H-taxes, y'all know, traditionally, we wait till August, September, October sometimes to actually get it, and there are a lot of groups who are kind of in limbo. So Mayor and I had talked about that, having those kind of H-tax discussions, because we had also, kind of talked about whether or not we would move forward with some kind of H-tax bond. All those are discussions that we need to have. I think we were waiting for the new council to be seated, the year to start, but I think that whether it be, budget committee, hospitality committee, arts and whatever it's called, but whatever, I mean, those discussions need to start now. So yes, that is the second part of my motion, but they need that commitment today. So I move that we allocate $80,000 out of 16-17 hospitality tax funding to pay for yellow shirts in the Vista.
Through
Through City Center Partnership.
Through what?
Through City Center Partnership.
All right.
Second.
All right. You second?
Yes.
Let me get Mr. Badura, he's been waiting patiently. Then,
Oh, I hadn't finished my second.
Oh, I'm
That was
sorry,
one
please.
question I had.
Yes,
You noticed that was my hand, I thought you were agreeing with me.
Then Ms. Plow, finish your thoughts, and Mr. Badura.
I wanted to ask the staff, because I'm concerned about the resources from A-tax and H-tax, I'm sorry, and what the flood impact has been. Do we have enough of a, I don't know when the statements actually come in, if you envision that there will be an impact.
Oh, you mean like effects on restaurants?
Because
Yeah,
restaurants were
revenue
closed.
Collections on the collections?
Uh-huh.
Just the same thing, this is what I'll repeat, it's pretty much what I said 3 weeks ago.
Let's get the microphone, Jeff, so we can hear you.
We've been following H-Tax collections, so through the end of November, while we haven't had the growth that we've had over the last 5 years, the growth is there enough that it so far has covered through the end of November our budgeted revenues. So that would get us through the period during the flood event. Now, going forward, will that have a continuing effect? I can't answer that yet, and that's one of the things that every month, we're just in the beginning of January. Once everything is fully booked, we'll be looking at December and the end of January to see if we have additional growth or to see if we have issues. But currently, for our current year's budget, we feel, based upon what we've collected through November, that everything will break even by year end.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Medora.
Can I go now?
It's still Tuesday. Go ahead.
I'm not going to make a lot of argument in this. I've always said that Yellow Shirts has to be funded from hospitality tax, but there were a couple of statements made today about the Yellow Shirts and how the program was started with the bid in downtown and how they had a budget, but every year they come to hospitality tax for more funding. Obviously, they need more money. Now, Vista is the same way. I'm not giving you all a hard time about what you had last year when you had a little bit of reorganization when you're within the Vista Guild. So, I don't know whether you spend the $250,000 on marketing or, I think you probably didn't do all the events that you were supposed to do, and I could be wrong. But to me, I think it's more like a prioritizing, what do you want to do with your budget that you get from hospitality tax with the Vista Guild. So if you want to decide 150 goes to Yellow Shirts, you should have kind of prioritized that to begin with. And that's y'all's product, y'all responsibility and discussion more than me. Now, the other thing that we have to talk about and council has to talk about is we talked about hospitality funding every single year for the past 4 years. We have come up with processes, we have come up with policies, how every application has to go through the committee, have to go through the application process, that, every group that comes for council for more funding, that is not really proper because you're going to generate and escalate a roller coaster that another group is going to come tomorrow and ask for allocation for next year's budget, and so on and so on. We're never going to get out of this. So if we as council want to set policies into where we move forward, we've set these policies for the past, but we keep changing them every single week. And it doesn't matter whether a study is completed with the help of the Art and Preservation Committee or not. Council keeps breaking their own policies, and we got to get to the point where we need to have a policy and a standards that everybody will follow. So if somebody comes in after the committee or after the funding or the allocation has been done, so be it. You got to wait till the next year's cycle. And we've never been good about that. We've been going back and forth from day one. So for that reason, I don't think I can support any more funding for next year's allocation. I think we as council need to stick around and have a standard and have a policy and have a system that we need to stick with and keep moving forward, because that's how you plan ahead. And you agree with that, Richard. I mean, you're on the Hospitality Tax Committee, and I was too. And we hated it when council members used to give money away before it comes to the committee.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
And here we are again.
Well,
Can I just correct one thing? Let me correct, because I will say, I don't disagree with you, because I've raised that we don't follow the processes. But I do want to say this is different in that they did go through the committee process for their money. Because we had that discussion, and I know at least Brian and I did talk with them and say, because the previous year council did the allocation for the Yellow Shirts and not through the committee, that needed to come here. I did raise it when we started the budget, before we approved our budget, but there were so many other moving parts going on. We kept saying we'd discuss it, and it never happened. And then we actually didn't have any more money.
But we're not in an open situation.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that this is, I guess, to say that they are coming back later because they didn't do it in the process, that's not correct. They went through the process that they discussed with us. It's just that we actually did not discuss the H-Tax funding for Vista Shirts, which I think is, I reiterate, the bigger issue that we as a council need to have that discussion, whether or not, one, we want to continue Vista Yellow Shirts, which sounds like if this passes, sounds like a majority of council does want to fund it or to continue it, then the second question is, how does it get funded moving forward? And I know there's been all these kinds of conversations as to whether or not we'll fund it, and we'll fund it out of H-Tax, whether we'll fund a part, but we encourage them to do, a bid, which I know there's been some discussion that they don't want to, some people may not want to do that. But whatever that mechanism, whatever that framework looks like, needs to be the next conversation. It needs to happen soon, but that doesn't address their issue that they need commitment today so they can continue.
But commitment of next year's budget is the first we have to deal with. I mean, between the sport, the Jehovah's Witnesses and this, and the North Columbia, really, that's the only time we ever had to face this. I mean, but it's going to continue. It's going to continue if we don't make a policy and set ourselves and make our parameters where we're going and how we're going to handle this. Because it will not stop with him.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
For complete clarity, I started this process in March of
Yeah, you did.
2015. I am not coming in front of you halfway through your fiscal year.
It's like
I mean,
when the
it
budget
was
is spent, it's spent. It's not,
Councilman McDowell?
Yeah, well, I want to agree with that. I want to agree with one or two of the things, but I think we're talking about two different things right now, as I see it. I think there needs to be, and what I hear you saying, a stronger policy. A policy that's going to be overlapping, that everybody can sort of buy into, and all of us are singing off the same sheet of paper as it relates to H-Tax policy. For the yellow shirts, of course, I think that's another issue. And the issue right now is that, what I just heard you say, Richard, is that we did not come here today to start this conversation. We started back
10
in
months ago.
March. This gives us an opportunity, where I plug in with Mo is that there needs to be a genuine, authentic conversation about H-Tax and the policies involved.
Amen.
And yellow shirts.
And the yellow shirt.
And the yellow shirt,
shirt,
yeah.
yeah. And whether or not, and I think it raises some issues whether or not we can take monies that are not even designated for next year and use them, and that be a part of what we're gonna be doing in 2017. I think you're absolutely right, but I think it's too.
But we're gonna do it. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut as the manager, and I'm seeing the CFO, but the discussion of a policy on if you can spend future budgets is not a policy on
Well, you're
that. I
abso-
mean, you
you're
can't do
absolutely
that.
right.
You
And if-
shouldn't be doing
and
that.
if
That's
that's-
why we're having the angst. But I do understand why you all are struggling with this particular issue, but I just can't in good conscience, nor can they recommend to you that you spend future budgets that you have not even established, and we've not even given you the information.
You know, and I'm
that
just,
we have.
I'm just a humble preacher, not a futurist. And I'm not one to
It's
to
part of the
delve
budget.
into
It's
monies
part of
that
the
we
budget.
don't
But
have
it- I mean,
yet,
it is-
not
it-
even
we are not in that
budgeted.
budget yet.
So I
It's
agree with
part of the
that.
budget.
And I think that's what Mo is saying. But I think if we don't move forward, we're gonna leave this group in a lurch, in a quagmire. The larger picture, I think, is formulating policies that are going to be consistent with what H-Tax dollars are all about.
Right.
And that we haven't done.
Reverend, we've done the same thing with the sports action,
Oh,
or whatever,
yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. Well, you were not, but
Thank God.
but it'll be another group tomorrow. I mean, that's it's, you're committing and you're spending future budget. Whether, no matter how you spend it, you're spending money that you do not have, that you're not connected, you have not collected. And you don't know whether you're gonna collect or not, because you never know what's gonna happen in 4 months.
But honestly, that's what our budget is. I mean, our budget is based on projections of collections. What we're saying is that when we are already going into planning for the budget for 16-17, this is already allocation that we know will be in there. And so I understand the angst on it, but that's what a budget is, though. We don't collect any of the money yet, but we're actually doing a budget based on what the projections say we're gonna collect.
But the edge tax, the way it's collected is different than property tax. when you look at general
But
funds.
every year, but I
When you
understand that, but
come-
every year, every time we pass a budget with H-tax money, which A-tax money, it is money that we haven't collected yet. All of that is, I mean.
Yeah, but
it-
when you do another budget, another year, you're extending yourself.
We're gonna put a bow on this. I'm moving, Ms. Plow, let Ms. Plow, I'm gonna have a word first.
Right, but we're about to start the budget process.
Ms.
We're about to start the budget.
Ms. Plow, and then me, and then we're going.
I'm going to ask
Move forward.
Tamika if she would consider an amendment to her motion that would say that we would no longer consider any other group coming forward that would rely or need funding from next year's budget till such time as we take up the entire budget.
I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what I would say is, why don't we amend it, say, and then, there will be, and I don't know if we want to do it as a full council or if it goes to one of these committees, but that the recommendations regarding how do we handle these things moving forward, and go ahead and schedule a date to have that
I
discussion.
mean, we may in fact have a similar situation, just as we talk about Gonzalez Gardens next, and how we pay for that demolition. So, I mean, I think passing a sweeping, let me just finish. Passing a sweeping policy like that we've got to get to the two separate things, and several different conversations going on here that I think we're attempting to interpret and also misinterpreting. I'll disagree with the gentleman that I nominated for appointment to the Hospitality Tax Committee, Mr. Badura, many years ago. Y'all forgot that, didn't y'all? It
was all your fault, Steve.
We agree with the H-Tax Committee recommendations 90, probably 95% of the time, if you look at a total of the amount of money recommended by the committee. I think we have to be very careful but while we've asked these citizens to donate their time and their talents to helping us whittle through what is a very arduous process, that we don't attempt to delegate the ultimate authority of council to serve as the policymaking body of the city. If in fact we determine it is a priority for the city to continue to invest in these clean and safe efforts that have helped transform Main Street, that are having incredible impact on the Vista right now. If 5 Points was contiguous to the central business district, we'd be discussing 5 Points as well now, but the connectivity, the contiguity issue made that impractical for block by block to also extend their efforts in that direction east as well. But this is a good thing. These efforts have borne fruit. We're talking about, I mean, I'm in the Vistos. They were taking my girls for a burger just a few nights ago after the men's basketball game. There's a new announcement every single day in the Vista, and we are counting on the H-Tax dollars that continue to come in from the Vista to support the overall pot that we're having here. So whether I think it's not debatable as to whether or not this is a smart and sound investment of H-Tax dollars. Historically, working with the City Center Partnership, we've had the bid to help complement the overall efforts, but we still invest heavily in the yellow shirts through H-Tax, and we must continue to make it clear this is a priority. This is a place where these dollars that are collected from these restaurants that actually also happen to be in the Vista and other entertainment districts around the city, this is a place where we ought to reinvest. I'm willing to make that commitment. I think it's smart that we do. I think it's a good, strong, safe bet on behalf of the people of Columbia. We still will have to have those larger discussions about whether or not the property owners in the Vista decided to move forward with the business improvement district. And I know there are a number of moving parts there, or there's some other hybrid that might help complement our efforts. But this is good, smart money. And I think we have to first ask ourselves, is this a proper use of funds? Is this a smart use of funds? Is this good, and will it help the H-Tax pot grow? I think the answer to all those is clearly yes, and we need to be first willing to make that commitment. The separate policy discussion, we cannot, and we've had this discussion before, regardless of what committees or task forces we set up, whether they're talking about HTACs or they're talking about a no-kill policy or we're talking about whatever it happens to be, unless they're defined by state law, and I got a municipal expert here now to help me out here, whether they're defined by state law and authorized as a BOZA or a planning commission or we have a DRC, there are policy-making decisions that we have to make as a council, and we ought not be willing so wantonly to give those away. I mean, I think let's make a decision. Let's stand by them. Some people may not appreciate how we get to the decisions that we make, but I think it'd be foolish. I think it'd be opinion-wise and a pound foolish to disinvest in a clean and safe program in this. I think it's a smart investment. I think it's borne fruit. And I think we need to continue to watch and see it grow. We need to make this investment now, and thanks to the City Center Partnership and Block by Block for helping facilitate this at Ms. Devine's request. But we need to go ahead and wrap up that more global discussion around how we provide clean and safe efforts prospectively. So through the HTACs committee process, as well as just whether or not it's important enough to council. And you guys will see when things have been important enough to us. I have not been reticent to launch an effort to take it out of the committee process and bring it right before council because it's important enough for us to talk about. And I don't think that doesn't contravene any policy that we have. It's just something that's that doggone important, and I think it's something we ought to do. So we're going to have more opportunities to discuss it. If anyone else has to have a last relevant, meaningful word on Ms. Devine's motion, which I believe has been $80,000 from 16-17 HTACs to the City Center Partnership, which we understand will be used to support the continuation of the Clean and Safe program for the last 2 quarters of the fiscal year. And then obviously we need to commit to having that larger discussion over the course of this budget process for FY 16-17.
And Mr. Mayor, I would actually suggest to have the conversation like now before the council gets into the budget. So I don't know when, I mean, our retreat is this weekend, whatever committee is appropriate, then I think that committee, their January or February meeting, this discussion needs to start.
I'm not sure what the agenda for the retreat. We got
a
some
full
room on there.
agenda. I've seen it.
It's a full agenda.
Let me sure if there's room for that issue.
A separate council committee of the whole.
Yeah, but it's a large issue, and it's probably one that in which we probably need to continue to engage with those of you who are business owners in the Vista, because obviously there's a give and take there that we need to ask more of.
Can we do that before this group takes up anything else to fund? Can we have the group as a whole take that up before we consider any additional requests?
That's what, the request will come as far, and we have to have the ability to speak our minds clearly as you do, as whether or not we support it or don't support it. But I think it'd be a mistake to say, council, if something shows up on our plate beginning of February that is incredibly important for us to discuss, and that might require us to look creatively at how we address it, I don't want to take away from us the ability to do so.
I would hope, Mayor, in the future, we wouldn't spend every bit of money we have.
Yes, ma'am.
And so there would be some dollars set aside for
Sure.
those kind of emergency kinds of
Absolutely.
considerations.
Absolutely. And we've done it in previous years. And I think we have a pretty healthy surplus this year, Mr. CFO, as well. Mr. Davis,
This last word that I wanted to,
I think
I hope I can set.
Reverend McDowell moved the previous question about an hour ago.
That's fine.
And Mr. Davis, last word is, I fully support more funding for the NCBA for the
Well,
marketing.
no, not only that, well, I think, and there are 2 points I want to extrapolate from your, from your statement. It's one, policy, and then there's the governmental prerogative of council from time to time. And this argument or this discussion is basically because of the commitments council has made historically over the years. How much is it worth to the organization? How much is it worth to the city? how much is it worth to Columbia moving towards a seamless city? And that's all about commitments, not just commitments of philosophical support, but material support. That's why we're arguing for the Vista today, because we're saying because of the seeds planted, we're saying because of the seeds planted, the Vista is worth the dollars that they're asking when they came through this door. So was 5 Points. So was City Center. And last month's discussion to try and make both organizations whole so that they can accomplish that goal says that, you know, it's worth it. So when we get into the policy, I don't have a problem with the policy, never will. But I think we need to show equal commitments to certain parts of the city in terms of resources, which can be
Hear, hear.
justified.
So is it a
And
motion?
that I think is what has to be also the mission of the council when we look at how we're going to distribute specialized resources for specific purposes. Marketing, to keep the Vista going and attract people. The eastern part of the city, to develop it and attract businesses and attract families. The northern part of the city, to develop housing, attract families, and attract businesses. Bottom line.
We hear you.
Okay.
Move the question.
Move for the question.
All right. Previous question. All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Ms. Cloud?
Aye.
Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Benjamin?
How do you come around, Mo? You said you weren't going to do it.
I got him.
Hey, an hour later.
Mr. Benjamin, did I?
That's actually our first vote of the new
That's not the
council and
point.
the
Mo,
unanimous.
did I take it?
That's not the point. The point is that we have to set our policy. You cannot keep going back
Yeah.
and forth.
Well,
You know,
and Mr.
I
McDowell
made my
just suggested
point.
it be a committee of the whole, and
But I agree, but I also have to
need
say,
to discuss it
that's
again.
not in contravention of any policy. that
oh
we
yeah, no, I was.
No, I'm not saying, I was looking at you, I was talking to Mo.
But what I was just gonna suggest is, what typically
You
happens.
might want to escape while you can.
What typically happens is that,
You
you
wanted to
know,
do
we
something.
have several issues on our work session, and we just don't dedicate the time, well, we dedicate a lot of time
Let
today,
Richard-
but,
Rich-
you
let
know,
Richard-
the necessary to really delve into the issues,
And
and
we've
so
got to.
I think we need to
We've got
Let
really
Mr.
consider.
Let Mr. Burks have a final word. and let him-
I just wanted to recognize everyone who I failed to earlier, that we had a lot of folks, some people have already had to leave, but if y'all could stand, or if you're standing, raise your hand of who actually have come out to support this.
Thank
And,
y'all.
you know, it's a big time commitment on their part too. They're very passionate about it. Thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Hey, Rick,
Want a dedicated work session, is what you all are saying.
That's what I'm
For
suggesting.
The H-tax bond and the H-tax.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Budget policy.
Yes, ma'am, I don't know what our upcoming stuff looks like. I mean, we get so bogged down into da-da-da-da, and we've gotta, you know, work session, and then we don't, you know, we don't really spend the time necessary to have that discussion. I think we need to, because this has so many different issues.
So,
Teresa,
yes, sir.
USC has finished their research on the hospitality. So I guess whenever it's time to schedule it on the work
can
session,
we do that as part of it?
go ahead.
Can you do that as part of it? That'd be great to see. That'd be great. Simon,
Part of this.
Simon is out of the country, but
that's the study, that'd be great. So have that.
because we
HTAX
couldn't have a
bond.
committee meeting because, you know, I have two of my committee members kind of out of commission a little bit.
So it'd be the
The H-tax bond.
USC study
We could
policy.
and
not have a work
the
session agenda with
policy meeting.
6 items on
Kind of
it.
H-tax, the H-tax
But we
budget.
need to specifically come up with an approach to this yellow shirt business.
Right.
That's more. It's not the policy, it's a yellow shirt. That's the issue. The larger policy. I mean,
I support this because of you.
Us groups we would love to have.
Bill, you okay?
So did he fall?
Almost.
I think he tripped over his
Wonderful
knee.
officer
that
caught
was-
him in mid-fall.
Yeah. I think his foot was sticking out, Bill Walker.
All right.
As it relates to
Awesome. Housing Authority?
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Well, she's gonna look at our
Hey,
agenda,
hey,
and do a
Gail.
work session just for this. So,
Item 2 is the funding request from the Columbia Housing Authority for demolition. The Honorable Mayor Stephen K. Benjamin and Mr. Gil Walker's here, and Ms. Minnie Roberts. Thank you all for joining us.
that's your
Thank you so much.
he's gonna take the lead. I mean, it needs to be done, just like this, for how, I wanna hear from Jeff on how.
I want you to speak.
That's not our fault, that's not our fault, it's there.
I don't trust them. People can look at us that we turned down their houses.
How are you?
Sam. Sam. Not you, sorry.
Big Sam.
He's not too big either. Huh? He's not too big.
You know, we come in small packages.
She has a phone.
Most Sams come in small packages.
Small, powerful packages.
Yeah, right. I don't know about the power. You know, I do the system that I get this thing. And
Yeah, I have a tablet, but I've never brought it to council. I
So
can't
that-
figure
that
if
was
I
your
use
Christmas
it.
gift?
one of them, yeah.
And you don't know how to use these.
Yeah,
You don't know how to use
He don't know how to shut it off.
set it up.
He can use it, but he doesn't know when it rings what to do.
I spent 2 hours yesterday setting it up.
What is that?
This is a flex pad. They're all the same.
Did you turn it up?
Everything but a volume.
This was my Christmas gift, and I think
You got one?
I think I brought, well, no, this is
That's a
the,
Surface.
this is the Surface 3. And see, I had a Surface 2, so I had one. Yeah, but this one does more. But I think I brought the charger for the old one, because it won't charge it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it won't
Got
charge.
everything in it, but except that it has Bing. I don't like Bing.
I don't either.
I
Were you looking at this now,
So
Howard?
it's with the batteries.
I like,
Yeah.
actually, I like the other one. It's really at home.
I think I brought the wrong one.
Okay.
You ready?
Hey, yes, sir, Mr. Walker. How are
All
you?
right.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for allowing me to come. First, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the city manager, and also the staff, let me say that thank you all so very much for allowing us to come to present a proposal that the authority sent down to the mayor concerning Gonzalez Gardens. We have been working with the city now for, I guess, a couple of years as it relates to Gonzalez Gardens, and we have been approached about something needing to be done over in that community. We applied to HUD to get a proposal to get permission to actually demolish Gonzalez Gardens. We got it about 2 weeks ago, and once we got the information, we sent it around so that you could see. The proposal did not carry any funding at all with it. The only thing it carried was a proposal to actually demolish Gonzalez Gardens. I think the fact sheet that I sent around, I sent 2 sheets around, a package, so that you could peruse it, and you could see some of the facts about Gonzalez Gardens and also about some of the other things that we're trying to do over at the Housing Authority. In the past, we have been, the city's been real supportive of us and other projects that we've had, more specifically in Cecilia Saxon and also in Rosewood Hills. It was a very good reason why we were able to apply for and get around $26 million for Cecilia Saxon. We've completed that project. We've also completed the Rosewood Hill project. And the last 2 big projects that we have in Columbia now as it relates to public housing is Gonzalez Gardens and also Allen Benedict Court. You will see a summary of what HUD has said and things that need to be done. And what we wanted to do was to give you a proposal to see if the city would help us in that effort. We have approached other funding agencies. We've been to the county and asked that they would help with this effort. We've also gone to some private funding organizations, and we have put our own money into it too in order to get this done. The next step is to actually get the families moved out of Gonzalez Gardens. That's the first thing that we will do. We've already started that process. And that'll take about a year. But after that happens, the buildings will still be there. So what we're asking the city to do is to help us in actually demolishing the buildings, and then we'll come back with a redevelopment plan, which has been on our website for quite some time now, and we'll make sure that all members, especially the new members of council who might not necessarily be familiar with it, and you'll see what it is that we are trying to do. We're in partnership with the Mungo Company, who is one of our development partners, who's been helping us with making sure that this project actually is successful. It will take about $3 million, close to $3 million, in order just to go through this first phase. The next phase of it is to go to private banks, to go to other funding institutions in order to rebuild it. And we think very seriously that it can be done. We've done it down at Rosewood Hills, and I think if most of you know where Rosewood Hills is now, you can see the results. It was a combination of private funding. We had about 3 or 4 banks who actually put money up. And as we redeveloped it and got permanent financing, we paid those banks back. And so it was a win-win situation for not only the community, but for people that actually live into an area that really needs to be developed. Gonzalez Gardens is the 3rd oldest public housing facility in the country. Yeah, so it was built quite some time ago, and to be honest with you, we don't think that people need to be living under those conditions. Conditions are not good. You can't put central heat and air in. And we applied for grants to try to do it. We have not been successful. Money is very, very tight now as it relates to the federal government. So we decided that we were going to go out on our own, and we're going to find the necessary sources in order to do it. With private funding, with banking funding, and we've contacted some of the banks who expressed an interest in putting up some of the money with tax credits, with other funding mechanisms that we think that we can produce housing for. It is critical that the city, I think, be a part of what it is that we're trying to do, because it ensure a relationship that the city is interested in providing affordable housing. Most of you may know the Columbia Housing Authority is the largest affordable housing agency in the state. We either manage or either is involved with over 6,000 units in this city. And so we provide housing for people of all races, of all backgrounds, for people who cannot afford to pay rent in the high rent districts. We also have rental units that we rent, where people rent from anywhere from $50 a month up to, in some of our units, they're paying $1,300 a month, especially down at Rosewood Hills. So I'm here this afternoon to ask you to consider what it is that we want to do. We're not asking for the money right now, but we will need it in about 6 to 7 months. We're going to use our own money to relocate the families that is in Gonzalez Gardens, and that's going to happen because we already have that money in our budget. But if we could get help from from this council, it would be most appreciative. As I said, we have approached Richland County too, and we don't know if anything is going to happen there, but we have asked them and given them a plan of action on how we plan to do it, and I think it's in the best interest of all citizens concerned. If you have any questions that you want to ask, any comments that you want to make, I brought several of our staff people down to Stoudemire who've been involved with this, and not only this, but the homeless program and the veterans programs. And we have tried to put together what we think is a very good plan that I think everybody will be proud of. We do have a track record of what we've done in the past. We got a track record of moving families. We moved over 700 families. So we know what we're doing, and we know what needs to be done. We hope that we can find the available housing for people to move in. Every family that lives in Gonzales Gardens will be eligible for a Section 8 voucher. So no one will be placed on the street. We will make offers to 3 different offers, and then we will take people around and help them to try to find a place. We will move them if they want us to move them, or either we will compensate them and let them move themselves. A lot of families took the money and moved themselves, and that way they move much quicker and found places. As you know, Gonzales Gardens is right in the heart of Reverend McDowell's district, and the neighborhood associations in that surrounding area has asked us for years to try to do something with it. And we're at that point now where we're going to see something happen. Any questions?
Thank you. Reverend McDowell?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Ms. Devine.
I'm just getting in line. He's saying you first. No,
First of all, let me applaud the Housing Authority for this valiant step.
Thank you.
I think it's an admirable step that would perhaps lead to a renaissance in that part of the city. Of course, I'm right 2 streets over from Gonzales. I've had an opportunity to interact with some of those folks. This document here is very helpful, very helpful. Of course, word had already gotten out that something was going to take place in Gonzales. There were questions that I couldn't answer, but I've had an opportunity to read some of this and digest it. And it seems like these are the kinds of questions folk are asking. And I want to be able to, of course, give them that kind of information that would hopefully push this project onward and upward. I would just simply say this. Keep me in the loop.
I will keep you in the loop. I promise you that I will keep you in the loop, and I will bother you.
That's what I want you to do.
All right, and I have your cell phone number, so I'll make sure.
Other folks won't bother me too.
Yeah.
So please just keep, I think it's appropriate for me to say, Gonzales Apartments Gardens, in the heart of the city, a tremendous effort conversation has taken place and ensued with persons in the Waverly area about Gonzales, and when was that going to take place? I want to be kept in the loop. I want to make sure and ensure that persons know exactly what's going on. And the only way I can do this is to have something like this, because some of the questions that were asked could be the last day when it started running on TV. I couldn't answer, but I got the answers now. And if you would, just keep me in the loop and allow me to convey that to the constituents.
And I'll let you know too when we have future meetings too.
Good, please.
I'll keep your email
Would you please?
and make sure that you get it, and you'll be able to see exactly what it is that we're trying to do. Because I don't want the wrong information to get out.
That's correct.
Yeah, and that can happen too.
Ms. Devine and Mr. Duval?
Okay. I have several, so I don't know if Howard wants to go before me, but I have several, but anyway, first I will say statement, I echo Reverend McDowell. I'm glad that we're finally here. You know, this has been something we've talked about for many years. For those of you who don't necessarily remember, in the last discussions regarding TIF, Gonzalez Gardens, the redevelopment of Gonzalez was part of that. And so there was always a discussion regarding the city participating with the redevelopment of Gonzalez in some manner, but we've never really gotten to this point. So I'm excited that we are at this point. And I would add, similar to what Reverend McDowell was talking about regarding the concerns from the community, and I think Gil alluded to this, but even I guess towards the end of last year, the city manager and her staff have been working together to actually meet with the neighborhood, because they're kind of at their wits' end with some of the activity that they believe comes from that surrounding area, and have been really asking us and the Housing Authority to do something. So I do think that although our desire would be, you know, demolition and redevelopment happening simultaneously so that we can, you know, get that done, at this point, I think you've got to move, and having at least relocation and demolition will, I think, put us in a position to get it redeveloped, but also will address some of the concerns of the area. So I am happy to see us get here. Now, to my questions. First of all, looking at the budget, and it's just kind of unclear, and I know you said you have a request to the county as well, but if we were to approve the $1 million that you're asking for, there's still a shortfall looks like from here for demolition, is that right?
There's still a shortfall of about $2 million, close to $2 million for demolition.
That's with our $1 million, or?
With your $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, with your $1 million.
So-
Because it's going to take close to $3 million in order to do everything that needs to be done.
So where do you anticipate getting that delta?
Part of it, I anticipate getting some of it from the county. And I have made a request to the county, I don't know if it's going to be approved, but to ask them to waive the dumping fees for the debris that will come down. And if they do that, that'll be a tremendous help.
How much is that? How much is that in this?
That's probably going to be about $500,600,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So you
And the rest of it will come from private sources, will come from banking institutions, and to do the rest of it. And as we go through redevelopment, we can wrap it into future loans to pay off the same thing that we did down in Rosewood Hills. And that effort may take a little while in order to get that done. In the meantime, with Stephen and Stu Mungo, they have been working very hard, trying to find different sources in order to make sure that we do this successfully. They've contacted people just like I've contacted people, and we feel pretty sure that we can get it done.
Where is that budget to me?
Right here. It's the letter. You all have it on that.
But this is
I just got
2.1,
it
and he's
today.
saying it's 3.1.
I'm thinking he's saying it's 3.1 because this includes our $1 million. So if we gave $1 million, then they would still have a 2.1 deficit. Is that right, Howard?
But these,
Hold on, Howard.
I think it's 2.1.
I thought, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 2.1.
So they
If we gave $1 million, then it's 1.1.
1 point.
And then if the county does theirs, then
Tipping
it takes
fees.
it down to about 400,000.
If everything holds. Yeah, but I believe that you need to over budget and to make sure, because you never know what you run into when you start going through projects like this.
Mr. Devine?
Okay, and I know y'all done relocation before and been very successful, but in light of everything that we have been experiencing the last week or so regarding relocation of residents, what's your time frame? Are y'all talking to them now? Y'all working on relocation now? Or, I just want to make sure that we're not going to end up being in a timing crunch once you all get all the money and the approval.
As I said before, we have the money to relocate families now. That's not,
So are y'all in that process now?
we're in that
Have they been
process of meeting the
notified?
family. We've already notified the
Okay.
families.
Middle of the holiday.
What we're gonna do is, we're gonna do an assessment on every family that live over there, to see what their needs are, to make sure that whatever their needs are, that we try to help them to solve some of those needs. Some of it will be people that live in the garden for years, do have other obligations out with SCE&G and other things that they didn't take care of when they were out in the private market. We're going to help them with that. And we think that with everything that we try to do, that we think that we should not have we don't anticipate any problem. Now, where will they go? We think that there are about 3 or 4 different sources. Some of you may be aware that we are in partnership with Charles Johnson's group out of River's Edge. And those units are being built right now. 123 affordable units is going to be built. The first 20 of them will come online sometime next month.
Concentrate on Claire.
That's the first thing. The second thing, we are working with developing another 100 units of affordable housing on West Avenue. We are in the process of demolishing the old West Avenue units. We've already signed the contract with the group in order to go through that process. That'll produce another 100 units. We think that with all of the different resources that the Housing Authority has been involved with, we bought Fallen Springs Apartments on Sunset. We'll be able to go out and place some of those families out there. We'll be able to go out and place some of the families out at Capitol Heights, some of them at Bayberry Mew, some of them out at Elm Tree, Georgetown that we purchased. And we think with a combination of that and the private market, we think that there should be enough housing. Now, people may not necessarily want to go everywhere where we recommend, but we will certainly be able to make an offer. And then they can go out on their own because they have a voucher that they can use that voucher anywhere in the town or anywhere in the state.
And I'll just say this for the record, because this has always been the conversation, and really, when you're talking about relocation, you have to do what's available, but considering you've got 147 households with children, you know that there's a huge concern with Richland One regarding the displacement of their students. So have you been talking with them?
I have been in close communication. The second person that I notified when we got approval was the superintendent. I called him. That was the second person. And then I sent it to the mayor too, because they had been asking, when will we get approval? And I wanted to make sure that the superintendent understood that we're going to do everything within our power to try to keep as many kids into District 1 as we can. We can't stop people from moving where they want to move, but we're going to certainly build units in District 1 and make it available to them. We think pretty sure that people will want to stay in the city. Our experience in the past was that people love to stay in the city because all the conveniences that they had. With the bus transportation, with grocery stores and all the other things, we gave vouchers to some people, and some people turned their vouchers back in. They said they wanted to stay right in the city and stay in units that turn over that the Housing Authority has got. We turn over probably about 15 or 20 units per month on our own, just with people moving out for various reasons. So we think with a combination of that, we think that we can get it done anywhere from 6 to 9 months. It may take a year, but we think you'll see a tremendous difference. And I'd love to come back down here and give you a progress report to let you know how we're coming along with it too, so that you know.
Since you're doing you're anticipating that the families won't be relocated to December 2016, and you have to raise the additional money. So realistically, our cash on hand you wouldn't need until our next fiscal year, which would be.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And I'm sorry, two more, very quick. The.
But I'd like to get a commitment.
Right, I know, you
Yeah,
want a
like to
commitment
get a
now. I
commitment,
understand.
yeah.
I'm just trying to think for us when we would need, if we make the commitment, when we need to have it available. I see your comment about it being vacant and you're trying to make sure you definitely get the money to be rebuild. Just add the early concern that if it's vacant property, you need to keep it up, and we don't need any people coming on us about y'all not cutting the grass and that kind of stuff. And then lastly, just I think the last famous person, I think that's Curtis Moffett, actually, our former, was it
Oh,
police
yeah.
department?
Yeah.
Whoever did this. Yeah, he was assistant chief. I think it's Curtis Moffett.
You're talking about on the Wall of Fame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not Matt. Okay, that was it.
All right, Mr. Duval.
I had two questions, and Tamika may have asked one of them, and I didn't get the answer to. First, I've had questions about what's going back, and you say that there are plans on your website to show the proposed.
We do have a plan. Is it still on the website now? Yes, it's on the website.
The website address is there, and it's at the bottom of the page in a bold yellow font.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I can Google it.
On our website, if you go to chasc.org, and that address is in that handout we just gave you, at the bottom of the page, there's a big bold yellow box that says Central Columbia redevelopment. I can't remember what, but it's right there at the bottom, you can't miss it.
Can you tell us how many units of what size
Of the $60 million.
are going back,
It's, the sizes are gonna range from one bedrooms to about 3 bedrooms. They're gonna be a senior complex that's designed, gonna be about 100 units. And, they'll all be 1 bedroom.
Okay.
And about, in the entire area, because the, East Central area is not just Gonzales Garden, it's a much larger area.
But we're only
Yeah,
demolishing Gonzales Gardens, right?
Yeah, this is just one piece of it, yeah.
At this point. On that property in particular, it's gonna be about 300 units total that's coming back.
Plus the seniors or
Yes,
in
ma'am.
addition to the seniors?
Plus the seniors.
Okay.
300 family units, approximately.
Still Mr. Duval.
And the second part of my question may have been a duplication of her question, but I wanted to know the timing of when you would need funds from the city, because I see it's spring of 2017 when you're beginning demolishing. So are you gonna need our money in 2017 spring, which would give us a timing issue for the budget?
We would like to get a commitment in fall of 2016 if we could. And that's into the next fiscal year. Then what we will do is, we don't think the families are gonna be out really until next year, sometime in either November or December.
This year, you mean? This year?
This year.
This year.
It's
January.
This year.
It's already 16.
Yeah.
Already next year.
So I guess the question Mr. Duval was asking is, can we take this up during the regular budget process? Would that work for y'all?
That would work for us, yes.
Okay.
It would.
The, of the proposed development, is it all gonna be public housing or some taxable units as well?
It probably won't be any public housing.
Okay.
Because there's no public housing funds available, to my knowledge, available now.
So we have to keep in mind this will be taxable property as well, which is.
Some of this will be taxable property, some of it will be tax credit property.
Sure.
Some of it will be just like Rosewood Hills with market rate units.
Exactly.
Where people are in market rate units and they're paying taxes.
I think it's a very important point to make. I mean, even the.
And we did the,
But it'll be all rental? No home ownership?
right now, there's no home ownership. But if you remember, that question came up when we did Cecilia Saxon. When we came back, we built 96 single-family homes that went on the tax rolls that were not on the tax rolls in the past. And the city's got all their money back now through tax.
I knew the answer to that question, but I thought that was something very important to highlight, that we are talking about more units and units that go onto the tax rolls. Secondarily, and Reverend McDowell and Ms. Devine and I have had some occasion to talk about this. Thank you for of course, the focus on carefully relocating all the residents. I mean, it's important that people be relocated in a manner that's dignified, and also in a way that hopefully keeps people in the city. We're talking about building a city here in the city for all people, and that's important. Being very, I talked to Dr. Witherspoon in your conversations with him about, obviously we want to keep as many students in Richland 1, but more importantly, we want to make sure that as many students are able to complete their education year in Richland 1. We still have too many students who are itinerant, who start at one school at the beginning of the school year and don't finish at that same school. That's already a major issue, and I think the commitment you made to that is also very important. As we're looking at relocation, I would also encourage the authority to continue to pay attention to public transportation and the availability of public transportation as we relocate people. A number of folks who may live in the Gardens don't have vehicles, and the ability to access some very basic needs can be limited without access to public transportation.
We've met with.
Okay, fantastic. Or the comment as well. That's fantastic. But that's something that's so important. And I dare say some people may say, well, we need some fee simple for sale housing. As we look at our housing stock across the Midlands, there's a significant deficit of rental housing, market rate, but also affordable rental housing. So this also helps meet a significant need. And I appreciate this when Mac's comments earlier, as we talked about homelessness in the Midlands. I mean, you guys, we have one of the best housing authorities in the country. But the work you've done previously, but I still remain, and this will be central to my discussions at HUD tomorrow. We've got to remain focused on the 24-month and 36-month and 48-month effects of the flood and what that's going to mean for families across the Midlands. And if we're going to do something about that and be forward-thinking, we need to start acting now. So I would say this, and obviously we'll have some time through the budget process to discuss this in a more comprehensive manner. I appreciate the request for $1 million. I don't think it's enough. Just being frank, hopefully you can have. Hopefully we can have the tipping fees waived by Richland County, and that would be
I hope. We don't know.
That'd be a big deal because we're talking about asbestos, we're talking about mold, we're talking about some serious costs associated with not just abating but also finding the proper place to place this debris. But I want to make sure that that when you have some firm quotes as to what it's going to cost to do this, and then you have a firm commitment from Richland County, and you've looked at all of your other sources. If it's going to be 1.1 or 1.2 or 1.3, I'd love for us to go ahead and just take care of that right then. So we're not piecemealing something that ought to be central to the priorities of the people of the city. This is a significant development, but just based on I know the waiting lists that you've had and just reopened last year and saw an amazing response as to how many people need housing. This is still a small piece of a much larger puzzle that, but for our leadership in terms of providing infrastructure dollars like we have in the past, potentially providing demolition dollars that we have in the past, continued partnership with HUD and others, potentially helping work with the Midlands Housing Trust Fund or working with our various CDCs that do great work here at the city. We got to do a lot more. We've got to make a much larger commitment to dramatically increasing the housing stock for families that are middle class or working class families. We got to do more. So I want to make sure that whatever that final request is, and we have a few more months, obviously, if we're going to take it up in the budget process, let's make sure it's reflective of what the need is. I'm not saying come back and ask for $20 million, but let's just make sure, I know, give them a hissy fit. Howard just told me don't give away the shop. But I do want to make sure that we have to make a commitment to doing this and doing it right. I'm willing to support whatever you come back with the documentation to support it.
Okay.
All right. And thank you for your leadership.
We will do that.
It's a long time coming. And let Ms. Plow, then Mr. Davis, and Mr. Badura.
Quick question.
And then I'll let Reverend McDowell wrap up the last word from District 2, and then we're going to keep the train moving.
Gil, what is the total development cost for this project?
It's around, what, $60 million.
And do you have sources and uses for that, so we can see what the whole picture looks like?
We have a sources and uses for the demolition part of it, but we can put together sources and uses for, you're talking about for the total?
For the total development,
Yeah.
so we
But-
see how much money is needed, and then why you need, where your sources are coming from,
I think
so
it's-
we get some sense of
I think it's
what-
important, yeah, no, I agree. I think it's important to note that you did say this is an evolving process. I mean, you guys are looking at some pretty creative public-private partnerships.
We are looking at some real creative public-private partnerships.
Yeah.
And,
I apologize, Ms. Potter, to interrupt you.
yeah, but I understand exactly what Ms. Plow is.
And then my other question is, HUD's given you the certificates to help with to do the relocation. How long do you have to get the property down?
There's no time limit on getting the property down.
HUD's not requiring you to
No, they're not
demolish within a
requiring us
certain
to.
period of time?
Only thing they did was, they gave us what they call vouchers, housing choice vouchers, and we can use those vouchers to give to families that they can use in any part of the city that they want to use it in. But they don't really give you a time limit as to when you need to get it down. That's where our job come in making sure that we move very timely, because we don't want people to move out and we have empty buildings. That
Sure,
creates
I
another
understand.
problem.
I understand that. The 300 units, I mean, the seniors obviously will be income restriction of some sort,
It
I'm
will.
assuming. But the other 300 units, are those going to be mixed income, or are they going to be all affordable rental units?
They will be mixed income, but all of them will be affordable. All of them will be.
All of them will be below 80% of the median, or?
All of them won't necessarily be below 80% of the median, but it'll be very similar to what we did down at Rosewood, because there are families that live at Rosewood Hills now that do not fit in that category.
Well, then some of them will get vouchers to go there.
Some of them
Is that
will
what we're
get
saying?
vouchers, yeah.
Okay, but there'll be a percentage, you don't know what it is yet.
I don't know what that is yet.
There'll be a percentage that's market rate.
We'll make sure that we have a percentage as market rate.
Okay.
I can't give you that number right now.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure I understand the concept. The other question, that you are giving them vouchers to take to go wherever they would choose to go, but because the demand, because of the availability of housing units, you listed a number of complexes that it sounds like you've purchased already.
Some of them we have purchased.
And it seems to me that those seem to be geographically centered. And I just want you to be aware of that, and for me personally, that's a concern.
Any other questions?
Mr. Davis, then Mr. Badura. Can't get up that easy, Brother Walker.
No, I agree that Gonzalez Gardens, that the time has come for that. And the housing authority's taking the lead. Just two questions I have, just trying to understand, I think is also geographic. Where is Falling Springs and
Right off of
Elm
Sunset
Tree,
Drive.
Elm Tree, Georgetown?
Fallen Springs is located on Sunset, right near River Drive.
Okay. To your right, I believe. And Elm Tree?
Elmtree Georgetown, we purchased Elmtree Georgetown off Leesburg Road, and there's 78 units over there. What we were trying to do was to make sure that whatever we purchase, that we don't buy units all in one spot. We want to make sure that people have an opportunity to move in whatever part of the city that they want to move into. And then we'll be building units too. And then you have to understand too, over at Cecilia Saxon, right now, we have market rate units over at Cecilia Saxon. It's been over there now for 10 years. And a lot of people not aware of that. Some of them are public housing units that's over at Cecilia Saxon. Some of them are tax credit units that's over there. That's been over there now for a long time.
I'm dealing with something now out of this group out of Florida, but the plan for, in this case, it's demolition and not renovation. If I live there, do I have the option to come back after construction?
You may have the option to come back. You may have the option to come back. A lot of it depends upon the individual. What we committed to was that we would not put anyone out in the street without a place to stay.
Right.
And I'm just being frank with you. We have some families that we would prefer not coming back. And I'm just being.
No, I understand, and that's real, and that's always one of the issues,
Yeah.
one of the factors. And
Cliff,
kind
don't
of
write that
talking
down.
with some people in Charleston now. And that's a tough decision, and you have to make.
It is.
You have to make that choice. And then the affordability is one thing that I'd like to see, but then also we're still hoping that as we look at redevelopment and, either new construction or bringing new families in, we can get more mixed income developments as well, so that I'm new school and part of old school. And I think y'all are working at that, and that is that we don't continue to stigmatize people who live in what people call low-income housing.
Absolutely.
You can drive to any part of town and you know where they live because of the construction and other things that you deal with. So I would be supportive, but I'd like to see us, not just you, but as we move forward, we don't continue that trend. Smaller developments and mixed income, so that it paints a true picture of parts of the city, all of the city, because I was taught that nobody knows what's in your refrigerator until you open the door. Every refrigerator looks the same. And that's what the mixed income concept means to me. So I would be supportive of it, but I also support that. The better, the more the less we stigmatize folks because of their income, the better city we're going to be.
Mr. Badura, and then Reverend McDowell, wrap it up. Just note, time check. If we're going to try to hold maybe an hour for executive session, if possible.
Mine is simple, because I just don't know about Section 8 vouchers. How long do they be valid for? I mean, if a resident in Gonzales Garden receive a voucher for Section 8, do they have it forever, or a certain amount of years, or a certain amount of months?
They have it as long as the federal government continue to fund those vouchers. If they defund them, then, but I have not known of them not funded it yet.
Okay.
Section 8's been around for a while.
And I think I was looking for a statement from you personally that nobody will be out on the street until you find them permanent housing.
That, I can give you.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I can give you my commitment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Rev?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about this conversation is that almost 60 years ago, I was a product of Jesse Jackson Fieldcrest Village
In Greenville.
in Greenville. Actually, 52E Fieldcrest Village. I understand that there ought to be and should be an integrity that covers us and every resident in the gardens. I've had an opportunity over the last 4 months to visit with persons in the garden. I've been in their homes, I've been to the high rises, and there are some real unique persons there. And I think, as Sam just alluded to, and Mo did too, I think, these persons are persons who seem to be sort of seesawing right now. We want to give them some balance. And I think, if I'm hearing correctly, this council is committed to giving balance to those persons who are in, particularly, Gonzalez Apartments. I want to work with you. I think this council is willing to do that. After hearing all of that and doing what I normally do and have done for 41 years, I'd simply say, let the ushers come forward and take it.
Red, I was about to call you.
No, leave it alone, Mr. Man. I'm through. Gil, thank you very much.
Thank you too for your
And,
comments.
I look forward to put this train on the track, and together, I think all of us can make a difference.
Thank you so much. And I am going to have Rep. McDowell have the last word, but I want to make sure, because I know we had an opportunity to look at the letter provided by HUD. Timeline-wise, I mean, is there some indication of support or that you need from this council in moving forward? Obviously, we'll take up the funding request through the regular budget cycle, but without having a number. And I'm saying that partially because of the HUD issue, and secondarily, I want to make crystal clear to those who are not in the room, who are reading about this tomorrow over the next several weeks, that we are on one accord, that we want to see something dramatic and meaningful happen there. And is there something that you need from us that could reflect that?
Not at this time, but I can assure you I'm not bashful. And I will come back.
You have a great deal of support here in making it happen. So we look forward to.
Yeah, and ask for something that we may need.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so use the timeline one.
We're going to take it out of next year's budget, but
Yeah,
you don't
regular
like it.
budget.
We're going to use the next budget
Yeah.
cycle.
I think, Tamika, you're more skilled at this than I am. Can you and Rep. McDowell, I'd like to have some type of motion indicating our support. I just think it's important for people to understand that we didn't just talk about it today. You understand, Rev? You agree with me, Rev?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I move that council, let's see, I move that council approve, I don't know if I want to approve, okay, help me with it, you said skilled on this.
Why don't you work on it?
Work on it?
Why don't you work on it while we take the next presentations up? But I think, you two work on it, but I think it's important that we be on record today, indicating our clear support.
Yeah, that we support the allocation of $1 million that we
I
will
don't know I got $1
discuss,
million.
we will discuss it during our regular budget.
Well, seriously, let's take a moment. Let's take a moment to craft something. You had something to say?
Well, there's already had to be a letter of support that went with their application.
The mayoral letter and the council.
Well, I was gonna say if they endorse the
Is that on-
letter of support, for
there's-
funding to go towards the
They're
demolition
all
effort.
unclear.
Because you're already, you already.
For the,
Our previous support, I think, was more though, we want
Let's
to be
make
clear.
it clear. We have two more presentations. Just take a quick moment and just wrap something up that we can take up before we go in executive session and CHA staff and Ms. Livingston can help us.
3 more
work.
presentations.
But it needs to be clear that
It'll be quick.
And without the funding commitment that we'll make through the regular budgeting process, Ms. Blau.
Conceptually, what we're talking about is just a friendly motion.
Yeah, but I want to make sure it's clear. It's not rushed.
That would support the
Commitment,
project.
partnership, yeah.
To support the project.
Yeah.
Feel good.
We support
Yeah.
the project, the Columbia Housing Authority, and the demolition of Gonzalez Park.
Second.
And the successful
I'm
relocation
sorry, I didn't hear
of
it.
all residents there.
Did you,
Edward, repeat it.
Can you
I
say that
think Erica
again?
can't hear it, yeah.
you got it? Conceptually,
No, he-
I'm sorry.
Conceptually-
Conceptually, we support the concept of the Columbia Housing Authority, and we move expeditiously. Yeah.
Involving the-
The first time you
To
mentioned
proceed with
demolition.
Gonzalez
To,
Gardens,
yeah, to the, to,
Gonzalez,
for the,
yeah.
the redevelopment
Demolition.
of Gonzalez.
yeah, redevelopment of
You know what I'm
Gonzalez
saying.
Gardens to include a funding commitment towards the demolition.
This one over here needs to hear it.
You got that one?
I told you it wasn't a rush, y'all.
She's so
We can take some and pen it
I
out.
just, since he started saying it, I just said,
That sounds good.
that second.
I should just wait until he gets
Anyway,
more.
we'll wait.
Yeah, we'll work,
We'll wait.
work for a second.
You have it, y'all can leave though, y'all don't
Did you
have
get
to
something?
stay.
Pardon me?
I said, y'all don't have to stay though.
You
We'll
really just
make a motion.
follow the plan that the
I mean, we're gonna make a motion and, no.
Well, that, she's repeating it to me.
Go ahead, Erica, say it again.
Process.
What I have is that, especially to support the concept of the CHA and new
Let's take a moment.
Yeah, can we do that?
We'll take a moment. We'll take a moment.
Because we need to.
Thank you, Gil. We'll be good.
Yeah.
All right, but we'll make it clear on the record that we
it
support you.
really just
We can
needs
leave
to
now.
follow
Yeah, you can
the plan for the Eastern Columbia Joyce.
Either with you, Gil, but Gil, you know, either you're at the table, you're on the table,
Right,
so.
do that.
Do I have that?
Sir, how are you?
I don't know. You probably do. If you just take this first sentence
No, ma'am.
and include,
Just want to help work on the motion
and
real quick.
consideration
I don't
of
think she
funding
has
in the
that.
budget,
She doesn't have the letter.
16, but 16, 17 budget.
Oh, yeah.
Got two more?
See, I think where their issue's gonna be is,
Three more.
Are we not gonna have?
Yeah, I'm gonna take her real quick. It's good.
I wouldn't even, I don't think they need to get that specific about the number of families. Just say, the support, just say, the Columbia City Council, supports or endorses the Columbia Choice
Still,
Plan recently accepted by the Department of HUD.
That's what
To
happened.
include
wanna come
plans
around
to demolish
I can make that
the
happen.
Gonzalez Garden site and to formally consider
screen,
the
right?
fiscal year 2016-17 budget cycle funding towards this.
I think that sounds good.
I may just tell
Why don't you, because I want Ed to make the motion, why don't you just tell Erica what it is?
Oh, without changes?
Remember when I,
You guys can sit up real quick? I mean,
didn't I have the thing
straight.
It only just,
I am
it was like this.
really, really starving. I brought my lunch. I haven't been able to eat all day. So I was hoping I'd be able to eat my executive session.
That bone thing just wasn't right. I didn't think the way that thing.
Y'all taking a break or what?
So I don't know, it's best to have it, always have it straight,
All right, y'all, let's keep moving swiftly. We got 10 minutes for three items.
like this.
better.
Yes.
Like this, yeah, but if I think if it's always straight, which is what I was doing when I had that thing, when I was on the golf course.
I got something.
No, I got you.
Quality.
I don't know, hey, it is what it is, man.
You're getting old, son. That's all.
No, you'll never get old.
I found out, it's this isn't working, so I plugged my stuff up out there. So we gotta get.
You got, who's that? So who would go?
I was having fun with this thing.
Oh, I didn't see it. You wrote something out?
About to boil you.
Teresa did, but she told me what it was, so I was like, yeah.
Or just say that the Columbia City
Gonna be able to finish 3 more items?
the Eastern Columbia Choice Neighborhood.
I know these two are quick, I don't know what the tree thing is.
That's right.
Completely redevelop the Gonzalez Garden site and the Columbia City Council will formally consider funding for its efforts in the fiscal year.
Perfect.
Let me see.
I mean, it's just a presentation, yeah. The mayor and I
Ms.
were there.
Herbert?
Let me see if I can.
It's only gonna be a few minutes.
We're trying to give you a time, 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm not requesting any money, so mine should be pretty quick.
Not yet.
Ms. Tina Herbert, Executive Director of the Office of Business Opportunity, will present the Women's Empowerment Program and the Commercial Revolving Loan Fund update.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Actually, Cynthia Hardy is going to give this very brief presentation. She's here from OnPoint Media. A few years ago, we as staff were talking about having a women's empowerment event. And they have a great one in Raleigh, but we realized we didn't have the capacity within the city for us to really do it. And the Big DM decided to do a women's empowerment this year, and we decided to partner with them. The event was on September 3rd, the day before October 3rd. I think Mayor Benjamin asked us to cancel it because it was the day before. We didn't know it was going to be the 1,000-year flood.
Spend more time than Gandhi.
But it was a very wonderful event. We were really excited about it. Ms. Devine was there, Mayor Benjamin was there, and I wanted to give Cynthia the opportunity to give you the highlights of the event.
Thank you. Thank you all, and it's been nice participating in this marathon council work session. I mean, yeah, well, just watching the proceedings and all. I'm really proud of our city and our leadership. It's a really exciting time to be in the city of Columbia. And, just watching Mac do what he did in terms of giving the update from the flood. We've had him on our shows, and it's been great. And to see the first city council meeting for Councilman Duval and Councilman McDowell, this has been very, very nice. And also, as watching, and I'll be brief, Mo, you're yawning. I served with Mo on the Hospitality Tax Committee, and so it was interesting watching that discussion as well as the discussion about the yellow shirts, because we were a part of the committee, the CDC, that actually built the Publix, and so that was...
Mayor, he made a good choice when he nominated me 5 years ago.
Well, I agree with him. I think he made a really good choice, and it certainly launched this illustrious career. But first, I just want to say thank you all to the City of Columbia, its leadership, for its support of women's empowerment, and it was on behalf of Alpha Media. And so I'm here today as part of Alpha Media and OnPoint Media and our partnership with the City of Columbia. Alpha Media, of course, includes 6 stations. We've got ARQ, ESPN Radio, we've got Hot 103.9, the Big DM, and also Fox 102. And so together, we put together the Women's Empowerment South Carolina. Of course, it came on the heels of the mayor indicating that he had been to the one in Raleigh and really liked that, and also Tina Herbert, who had indicated as well that it would be really, really great to do something in support of women. And so the event came about we had several objectives, but one of the bigger was to present a networking and empowerment event for women that would celebrate women of color across our state to inspire and to empower, to entertain, engage, showcase, and foster fellowship with other women. Ms. Herbert mentioned that when we did the event, it was scheduled for October 3rd, and you guys probably remember everything was canceling on that day for good reason, because of what was coming. We decided to gamble, and our gamble paid off. We wanted 5,000 women. We ended up with a little bit more than 3,000 women at the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center on October 3rd. And some of our successes were, in addition to the women in attendance, live performances, Marvin Sapp, Avery Wilson, and Grammy Award winner Erica Campbell. Our seminars and workshops focused on leadership, the resources for families, which we think is really, really important. We recognize that women not only represent significant value in our communities, but also that they're making some really key decisions. We wanted to focus on business because we recognize the increase in the number of women that are starting small businesses, and also health and beauty, and we hit all of those marks. And breast cancer survivors and domestic violence was a focus of what we did along with our vendor village. And we'll show you photographs in a moment. And also we have a short minute, 30-second video that kind of captures the event. The city's sponsorship with this event was extremely significant for the biggest reason. Our station, WWDM, is 100,000 watts. We hit 85% of the state, and so we recruit from across the state of South Carolina. And we did the tracking, and people were from most of the surrounding Midland areas. We believe had the weather been better, that we would have done even better than that. But we're very delighted about what we were able to come away with in terms of our numbers. I would like to thank our city leadership for a number of things. I'm going to show them some of the photographs now. One of the areas that was, well, as you can see, let's stay with this one. Our entertainment, of course, was Marvin Sapp, Erica Campbell. I do want to indicate that we also had Jasmine Sanders from the D.L. Hughley Show. Former Secretary of Labor, Alexis Herman, was to have been with us, but it wasn't able to happen because of the travel restrictions on that particular day. Some people were able to make it and some weren't. A number of the airlines were canceling flights on that Saturday because of the weather predictions. And so, but Erica Campbell was able to be here, as well as he's probably, or has been at one point or another, Marvin Sapp has been the top gospel artist in the country. And of course, Erica Campbell is part of the Grammy Award-winning group Mary Mary. And of course, we have Jasmine Sanders and Davey Wilson and Alexis Herman on the flyer. Our numbers were very surprising to us because we knew that the weather forecasters would say that the water would just, but they didn't know when it would happen. So people took a gamble and they came on out. A big part of what we were able to do was to use the sororities as a basis for inviting women. And so we're really, again, very appreciative for what we were able to do. I think that one of the bigger things I do want to mention is that people use this event as a resource. The City of Columbia, as a sponsor of this event, it was really great to be able to provide information, particularly when it comes to efforts regarding young people and efforts regarding small business development. We had a number of authors, including our own Councilwoman Tamika Isaac Devine, who was able in our vendor village to sign autographs, and people seem to really appreciate that, that we had a number of notables there. I think one of the bigger things that I noticed in the focus group when we did our workshop on leadership, Councilwoman, was so many people really humbled by the fact that they were able to get close and personal with city leadership, women who are in leadership for the City of Columbia, and to have real great conversations. I do want to, again, thank OBO for its sponsorship, and as our presenting sponsor, then it is Women's Empowerment South Carolina, sponsored by the City of Columbia, Alpha Media, and then it proceeded on in that way. Before we show the minute 30-second video, are there any questions? I want to thank you all again for the support, and we're looking forward to a great event coming up in October of 2016.
Cynthia, I did have one. In the, I guess the women's leadership one, you talked about the, wasn't really mentoring, what, something.
Yes, it was,
Okay.
it's mentor matchup.
Okay. I actually ran into someone a few weeks ago and they asked me about that. Where are we with doing that?
Oh, thank you for asking. The airport has agreed to give us a space there, and we'd like to do it. I'm thinking that I'll need 6 weeks to promote it, so we've asked them for a March date to bring. What that was our effort to ask established women in leadership or business to agree to mentor women who are just coming into their careers, or women who feel as if they could benefit from the mentorship, so that we can match the established leadership up with up-and-coming women and do a mentor matchup in that way. We often do it with younger women, but I just run into so many 30 and 40-year-olds that ask me for help, and I can be of assistance to them. And I'm sure that I know what y'all saying. But you know what I mean?
We're talking about us. We're not talking about you.
So, but, you know, we're running into women who could use the benefit of established women leaders, and so we just want to be in a position to do that. And I'll make sure that as we put that information out, Councilwoman, I'll make sure you have that as well. Any other questions?
That's it.
Thank you again for the support. The credibility of the City of Columbia was extremely beneficial all across the board.
It was an
And I
excellent
would
event.
like very much for you all to consider your sponsorship of this event again for next year. Yes, ma'am, it's just a minute.
Get up on your feet and help me sing this song. I don't want to sing it by myself. Let me hear you say. Let me hear you say. Listen, I need just a little more cheese. 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 Just to help me along the way. Oh! Let me hear you say, I need just a little more cheese. Hey, I need just a little more cheese. Ooh, I need just a little more cheese.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah. Thank you. Cynthia, that was excellent.
Thank you.
An excellent event. It was nothing like telling all the ladies you need to hurry and go home as soon as it's over. There's bad weather coming, no one believes it.
It's incredible the number of people that were there.
Amazing. I'm not sure I've ever seen that many people in the convention center.
Well, it was incredible, and don't forget that Comic-Con was downstairs, and
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
were crazy together, you know?
Paul, before you start with CRL, Reverend McDowell had a motion. Good? You ready? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, move to endorse the East Central Columbia Choice Neighborhood Transformation Plan as recently accepted by HUD to include plans to respectfully relocate residents, demolish and completely develop the Gonzales Gardens. Good grief. The Gonzales site, and to consider funding for demolition during the fiscal year 6-17 budget cycle.
Second.
A discussion, with the previous question, clerk call the roll.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Badura?
Aye.
Ms. Powell?
Aye.
Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Aye. See what you, thank y'all. Thank y'all. All right.
Only thing I have
Tina.
is watch your vote.
Man, go ahead.
You're up again or not?
Yes. All our loan officers will be presenting CRL update.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I
think I met both of the new council members, but I'm Paul Featheringale. I'm the commercial loan officer with the City of Columbia, Office of Business Opportunities. I work with Tina. Twice a year, we like to come and give you an update on our commercial revolving loan fund. It's time for that again, and this one actually covers a little bit longer period. This one is covering the fiscal year 2014, 2015, and also I've included a couple of slides talking about the last couple of months to bring us all the way through 2015. So if you look at the highlights for that time period, and what you've got, I've given you a handout that's got the slide presentation on it. Do you have that? That's okay. If you look at the So if you look at some of our highlights for this year, our EDA funds, which those of you that we've been working with for a while know, we got those recently reopened again for us to be able to lend out of. In the time that we've had that, we've funded 7 loans for just over $1 million out of that fund. So we've been very successful in getting that out on the street. Loan servicing RFP, that was for an opportunity for us to look for another firm to service our loans in terms of taking payments, sending out invoices and all of that sort of thing. So we went through that process. We signed a contract with a new firm, and we actually started that on November 1st with the new servicing. And then Main Street Capital Program, that was from around this.
I just asked
Yes.
who did you go with?
We went with a group called Amerinational Community Services. They've got a lot of different cities that they work with that have loan funds just like ours. And so they're taking it over for us. And as far as the things like, loan modifications and all of those sorts of things, approvals and all that, that's still going to come through us. Primarily what the servicing is covering is the invoicing and collecting of payments. And then the last thing I'll mention is the Main Street Capital Program. We did that about a year ago. It was one of our efforts to really boost the business community on Main Street. We ended up funding 2 different businesses, 2 different retail businesses on Main Street, and for a total of about $35,000 that we got out on the street for those. So we were really excited about that. Oops. I'm not sure I do. Okay. Next, this is our CRLF committee. We did have a couple of members recently rotate off and a couple of new ones come on, but we are back up to 7 members. So this is our new committee. If you flip over, for 2014, 2015, our loan approval rate, and that is loans that actually come to the committee for approval, was 50%. We had 20 loans that we presented. We approved 10 of them. And there you can also see, just to kind of give you a little bit of a comparison, we were at 54% for 2014 for the year before. So we're pretty consistently kind of in the neighborhood of about 50% for approval. Here I'll give you a list of the loans that were closed in 2014-15. And then if you look at this table, what it tells you is who the borrower is, where it's located, the amount of the loan, which fund we took out of it. And then also, I want to point out, if you look at the private dollars, that's how much was invested by the borrower, either from bank financing, from their own financing, or, however the money was brought in. Some of our funds, well, specifically our EDA fund, requires bank financing. So for those projects, there is a bank involved with the project. On some of our other funds, they don't specifically require bank financing, but they do have to bring in some kind of private financing as part of the project. So that tells you how much of that we brought in. And then the next 2 columns tells you the number of jobs we created and the number of jobs we retained with those funds. So 28 jobs were created, 6 jobs were retained. And then I give you the number. Basically, we're created or retained 1 job for every $25,600 that we lent out through the loan program. Next, I give you a look at, this is minority and women participation in the loan fund for 2014-2015. And what this is, I basically break it down 2 different ways, by number of loans and also by the amount of funding. So in other words, the total number of dollars. So there's that. And then other 2014, 2015 activity, we had 5 modification requests. We approved 5 of them. We had a loan sent to legal. We have 4 that are currently actually being out for legal action right now, and that's either through the city's legal department or through outside attorneys. Okay, this is our portfolio performance. Now, I give you 2 different looks at this. One is at the end of the year, which was June 30th. And what I've got here is for each of our funds, I've got the breakdown of performing, delinquent, and default. And so what you can see is at the end of 2015, pretty good numbers, 80%. We had 80% performing. Then if you look down at, let's see, you can see program income generated, and that's for 2014, 2015. That is because our funds are revolving funds, so as the funds come back in addition to the interest that's generated by it, it goes back into the fund for lending out to others. So that's the track of program income. And that, if you look at minority and women participation, that's the entire fund as of the end of 2015. What percentage is minority and what percentage is women? And that's based on the overall dollars lent, not the number of loans. And so then I added this in. This is what we've done since the end of the fiscal year. We've actually only had 1 meeting since then where we have actually had loans on the agenda to be approved. We've had a few others where we've done other things, but we had 3 different loans approved, 1 on Main Street, 1 on North Main Street, and then we had a project with the Owensfield Hangar that actually ended up being withdrawn. And so there you can see the loans and the private dollars invested and the jobs created through those. And then this is portfolio performance as of the end of the year. I will say one thing in relation to that, which is some of the numbers aren't quite as good, but one of the things that we're having right now is with the transition over to the new loan servicer, not everything has been fully transitioned over, so not all of the payments that have come in the last couple of months are showing up in here. So that is one of the big issues we have with this. And there you can see minority and women participation as well. And then this is our total available to lend. This is what we have available in the funds right now. We have roughly about $400,000 between EDA and our HUD CDBG allocations. We have about $262 in SERV. So that gives you an idea of what we have available and what is currently outstanding. What we're looking at next, we're working on a disaster recovery loan program, which is going to be done with CDBG funds to potentially be a program, a small loan, maybe forgivable loan kind of program that would go to businesses who were impacted by the flooding. And then also with our EDA funds, we've got some of that left we're looking to disperse as well. Any questions? I know I ran through all that kind of fast, but in the interest of time, yes, sir.
I think we've had some discussion on this before. True micro loans, did we do that? Are we doing it?
Right now, you can get a loan as small as $5,000. $5,000.
Right.
But I will say we had very good performance with microloans. I think there are 2 on your list, and 1 has been kind of slow. 1 is in default. Those loans, a lot of times, are a lot riskier, and we don't necessarily always have the full capacity to do what needs to be done in some of the microloans, if that makes sense. It's a higher
They're a
risk.
lot of
so
work.
yes. What we'll say a lot of times is we have to do the same amount of work for a $5,000 loan as we would have to do for a $200,000 loan.
Why is that?
Federal guidelines and the city money.
I mean, I guess, I can understand, the challenges, but I'm just wondering why you would have to have the same kind of efforts for 5,000 as you would.
With the underwriting guidelines.
The feds say you have to do it. But is there something we can do beyond the feds? It's a small amount of money. It requires more nurturing of the business. But if we're looking at an area where we want to have some sparks.
We don't, we would need more capacity in our office as in we would need another loan officer.
It's a manpower issue versus the dollars.
With the money that we have and the program income that we generate, we could set aside a pot, but right now, we don't have the capacity. When folks are looking for a $2,000 loan or a $4,000 loan, they typically have issues that folks who can get a $150,000 loan don't have. And so it just requires a lot more attention, and we don't have the capacity right now to do that hand-holding like we need to do. And a lot of those we send over to Security Federal. Security Federal is they're a CDFI, and they're a little better equipped, I think, with their staff to kind of hand-hold. But if I had another loan officer, I could get that started.
I'd just like to talk to you because there's some things that I'd like to see us do because we have some little pockets in this city where we need to get something going. And in some cases, little counseling would help, but
And we can use our technical assistance providers to help with that too, but again, that comes out of our budget as a firm that we would hire to kind of help, or we would have to have inside capacity.
maybe we can, I don't want to take up any more time. Down the road, maybe we can talk and maybe y'all can enlighten me on what we have, what needs to be done, or what we can be done, or what we should be doing.
And we can always apply for CDBG.
The only comment that I want to make is that the whole concept behind micro-lending came when villages actually were doing that, and the money got passed around, so everybody had peer pressure to pay it back. What has worked in the States fairly successfully has been really home-based occupations. So you're not going to necessarily see somebody that might need that kind of nurturing sitting on a street front.
True.
They may be making whatever they make in their home.
That's true.
Awesome.
Thank you both.
Is that it? Thank you.
Thank you.
A larger amount.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I understand and I understand her point. But there's a midway there that there is some need, and it may not be the micro, I understand.
Yeah.
But if we can kind of look at that, because everybody is not going to want $1 million to come through our door.
And we can certainly look at that with our next CDBG application too. If we're targeting one of Deborah's areas, we can get funds for that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're
Thank
going
y'all.
to ask
Good report.
Mr. Robert Anderson, our Public Works Director, to talk very quickly about the next tree trimming cycle. And we're really doing this to be able to prepare council for, I know sometimes the questions that you get, but the staff has already established a schedule for informing the neighborhoods that are going to be impacted. So we just wanted to briefly share with you those areas of the city first.
Thank you, and I will be brief. We do have a presentation this afternoon. Sarah had to leave. She had a commitment that she has to take care of, so I did help her put this together, so I will try to mutter through this. I'm definitely not an arborist and not a forestry person, but as you'll know, every year the City of Columbia has a utility tree trimming update. SCE&G is currently on a 5-year cycle. But what we'd like to do is come back to council. We meet with the SCE&G early on in the year, or late in the year, I guess. And we set a date up for January of a meeting. What we've done is they trim for safety. They trim for safety for our customers, and they trim for safety for their linemen, but they also trim for improved reliability on their line, and they're required somewhat, and we could bring them here if you want to talk about the reliabilities of their line. The trees and vegetations are the leading causes of outages, and the vegetation management is a key focus of SCE&G over the past 10 years, helping improve reliability. And I think the stat speaks for itself. This is a stat they give us that in 2015, they averaged about 96 hours or minutes without power annually, and they've got a 33% improvement. In 2005, it was 145 minutes. So this is why we trim. How we trim? They trim every 5 years for their distribution lines only. So they are on a cycle in the City of Columbia. They trim according to ANSI standards, and what ANSI standards is, it actually tells them how to trim. They want 10 feet of clearance on the outermost of the primary, below the primary, and 20 feet of clearance above their primary line. And the proper cuts to take the trees away from line. Our staff, what Sarah's staff does is goes along within the right-of-way and makes sure that they're making the right cut at the right place. I just learned that a few years ago myself. I told Sarah today, I actually trim my trees a little bit better now at the house by knowing that I need to cut it back to a knuckle or something so the tree does not get any diseases in it.
All right.
This is going to be fairly quick. We've got 5 pictures. This is a cut that they made 5 years ago. This would be 1 year's growth, 2 years growth, 3 years growth, or 4 years growth, and 5 years growth. And the tree's almost back to normal. So what they'll do is they'll go back on the majority of these trees and make the cuts back at the growth wherever the healthiest part of the tree is. The next slide is the public meeting slide. What we do every year is we have a public meeting to inform the public. This year's meeting is January 14th between 6 and 7. It will be held at the Laurie Center. Sarah is in the process now. We'll have some maps, and I have a larger map, but what she'll do is our GIS tech will take our maps, they'll overlay SCE&G's trimming maps. We will identify the neighborhoods, and I do have a list of them. I will provide them with you, Missy. I don't know if you want to hand them out real quick. We have a list, and it shows every neighborhood that's located in your district on these sheets. I do want to tell you, we just are starting to disseminate the information. Some of these may change a little bit. We are very heavy this year, I believe, in District 3. I don't think 4.
Well, I hope you're moving out of 4.
District, it looks like we're very heavy in District 2 and District 3 this year.
Oh, Lord.
This is our return back to Shandon, I will be honest with you.
Oh.
So,
I'm moving out.
but
Oh, wait a minute. Now you picked out your district.
This, oh, I see.
Oh, they're more on the other side.
yeah, there's more on the other
I
side.
didn't know.
So what we will do at our public meeting is SCE&G and SCANA will bring in representatives. They will actually present their side. We'll actually present our side. We will take the maps similar to this and similar to this map, which show the neighborhoods. We will take these maps. We will blow these maps up on probably 1 by 1 or so, and it gives the neighborhood an opportunity to come in. They'll be identified by neighborhood. You'll be able to look at the map. We will be able to tell you whether it's a backyard cut, whether it's a cut that's on the street. Therefore, it helps the citizens understand. Sarah's group will take care of any issues that come up during the year. So the ongoing activities, and I told you I'd be brief, is forestry beautification is in the process now of notifying or identifying neighborhoods. They will be notifying the neighborhoods of the meeting on January 14th. There are some neighborhoods that do not fall, or some areas that do not have a neighborhood group associated with them. We have a hard time notifying them. Each week, Public Relations sends out a press release to the media. And that is weekly. What we do is we get an update from SCE&G or SCANA every week of where they're going to be cutting the next week. So we keep those updates going. Forester and Beautifications will notify by email City Council of what neighborhoods they're cutting in. The affected neighborhood contacts, they'll notify them every week. And the Columbia Tree and Appearance Commission. We monitor the trimming progress more than anything. We make sure we make the right cuts in the right places and make sure the contractors are doing that. Any issues that resolve during the year, if they want Sarah's group to come out and talk to them, they will do that. We act as a liaison between the property owners and SCE&G. And we continue communication with SCE&G and forestry each and every day if need be. Brett and his group are very responsive to the city, and we make sure that we are notified. And I do think it is worth pointing out that SCE&G does send postcards in advance of where they will be cutting. But it's a couple weeks in advance. We just try to keep this a little closer contact. With that, I will tell you we're meeting on the 14th at 6 o'clock at the Laurie Center. We expect a big crowd this year, as you probably can imagine.
I will make sure of that.
So I do have the larger maps. Like I said, they're in draft form right now, if you really want to see, but I think identifying the neighborhoods on those pieces of paper are better now.
I just had one question on transmission lines, not these lines.
You cannot read this, okay? We will have these broke down a little bit farther. These are the transmission line areas, and the reconductors, those are a little bit different. On the night of the 14th, we will have these in a little bit better format. They're going to finish up the reconductor project, I believe, this year on Garner's Ferry Road, and that's redoing the lines. So that will be wrapping that up. They will be doing some trimming of some transmission line. The trimming is a little bit different than others. There is a couple issues where we've got to pick some poles, I believe, by the 12th of January or something, of some poles they're replacing, whether they put in the galvanized pole or a weathered pole.
Well, you know what we do not want.
Well, we're gonna wrap this up.
Yep.
Any questions? Robert, thank you. Thanks, Sarah, in her absence. Obviously, central to everything we're doing, obviously making sure that the quality cuts, as you mentioned, but the communication piece is just so important. That's probably the most important piece of the puzzle. We know this has to be done in the interest of public safety, but really, all the work that you guys are already doing, let's reach out as far as we can.
We will continue to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, is there a motion?
Yeah, well, you gotta read, you gotta read everything?
The motion to go into executive session, discuss employment of employee as related to the legal department, receipt of legal advice on matters covered by attorney-client privilege, Chester Street property, 3119 Harrison Road, and SS 7231-12, sanitary sewer easement, mechanical clearing project, and discussion of matters relating to the proposed location expansion of the provision of services concerning the location or expansion of industries, other businesses in the area served by the public body, regarding an inclusion of property in a multi-county industrial/business park. That's the motion. It's moved and seconded. Move the previous question, Clerk Colorado.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Mr. Badura.
Aye.
Ms. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Vine.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.